For Lily to like it is the bracelet's greatest blessing, Jack said, his voice thick with emotion. And my greatest honor. He wasn't an idiot. He understood what everyone else saw so clearly. Lily's love and acceptance were things he'd never found in anyone else, not in this life or the last. Only she had proven herself loyal to him, in life and in death. In return, he had to give her everything. A love as monumental as she was, a queen's ransom of affection and honor. Jax knew that, deep down, Lily didn't ask for much. She had always been endlessly gentle with him, indulging him, even suppressing her own true nature to do so. But to be her true husband, her equal, he still had a long way to go. He needed to become a man who could hold up the sky for his queen. He couldn't let her down. And on that path, he walked alone. Jax, you've just started your own company. You don't have to give me such expensive gifts, Lily murmured, her voice laced with a pained tenderness. Her eyes, filled with an emotion the world could only dream of seeing, softened. Even a flower you picked for me by the side of the road would be precious enough. She looked at him, her gaze so vulnerable it was heartbreaking. You give so much for me. Am I really worth it? Jax's face softened into a smile. He reached out, his touch impossibly gentle as he stroked her long hair. Lily, you're my wife. No gift I give you is too expensive, even if it's everything I have. He held up her wrist, the rubies catching the light. And this wasn't that expensive. It was bought with the profits from our company, JX Innovations. When it comes to buying you gifts, no price is too high. He met her eyes, his own burning with resolve. What I can give you now is still nothing, but I'll work harder. I'll give you everything. One day, if you ask for the stars, I'll pluck them from the sky for you. To many in the crowd, it was just the sweet talking of a pretty boy trying to please his sugar mama. So what if he was successful? Didn't his startup capital come from Lily Astor in the first place? What was there to brag about? Watching them, Quinn Vanderbilt felt a pang of envy. There was nothing wrong with Jax Pierce. The sincere, blazing passion he had for Lily was so palpable that even she, an outsider, could feel it. How happy must Lily be, caught in the center of that fire? Not like her. She bought her love, and all she ever received was hypocrisy, fear, and flattery. Other than him, she'd never been truly interested in another man. Henry, for all his idiocy, was the closest she'd found in years to a likeness of the man she'd lost. It was why, after all this time, she'd kept him around. Unfortunately, Henry had been a monumental fool, deliberately provoking Jax Pierce. Even if she wanted to forgive him, she had to give Lily face. A lesson was in order. Quinn swirled the red wine in her glass, a lazy smile playing on her lips. She glanced at the new lamb that had been delivered to her side. The young man wasn't as perfect a replica as Henry, but he had a 3 or 4/10 resemblance. A seductive smile bloomed on her face. She crooked a finger at him. See that? How in love they are. Her voice dropped to a murmur, a husky, intimate whisper that only added to her allure. Love can conquer all. She looked through the young man, her eyes focused on a ghost. And you, where did you go? She whispered. I miss you. In that instant, it was as if she had descended into a private hell, a place devoid of any light. She was looking at the young man, but seeing another, and yet, she was painfully, lucidly aware that this boy was just another stand-in, another comfort she'd bought with cash. The substitute lamb at her side, his eyes still clear, seemed to understand she wasn't talking to him. But he played his part perfectly. He stepped forward, allowing her to run her fingers through his short hair. I miss you too, he said softly. Quinn. Just that one word. It sent a tidal wave crashing through her. Quinn. That's what he used to call her. As her status had risen, no one had dared to be so familiar for a very, very long time. This little lamb was fearless. She let out a soft chuckle and raised a hand. Her most trusted subordinate stepped forward and handed the boy a check. The amount was $50,000. For a college student, it was a fortune. For Quinn Vanderbilt, it was pocket change, a tip for a pet she was done with. You're a good boy, she said. A shame he was never this obedient. You're not like him anymore. You can go. She gave her man a look, and the young lamb obediently took the check and left. But as he turned to walk away, an invisible shadow seemed to fall over him. As soon as his back was to her, a flicker of ice-cold light flashed in his clear eyes. Not like him. Ever since they were children, people had said he and his brother were like night and day. But they were still brothers. The brow, the line of the lips, they were nearly identical. Only the eyes were different. One was the eye of a wolf, the other a lamb. But in the end, the wolf was no wolf. His heart had been too soft. And the lamb was no lamb. His savagery was hidden beneath a gentle fleece. That was how he, the lamb, had managed to survive in his brother's place. As the young man walked away, Quinn's gaze was inexplicably drawn back to him. No, he's not like him. But the posture, the presence in that departing silhouette, it was so much like him. But her love was dead. He'd been dead for years. No matter how many substitutes she found, no one could ever truly replace him. Quinn pulled her gaze away and took another lonely sip of wine. Being alone wasn't so bad. It was just that sometimes she felt a pang of envy. Sometimes she was moved by the sight of someone else's genuine love. Have Henry brought back to the estate, she said to her subordinate. He's been punished long enough. Lily should be satisfied with how she'd handled it. It wasn't that she cared about Henry. She just wanted to see that face a little longer. Meanwhile, all eyes were on Jax and Lily. When they saw the great Lily Astor actually initiate a move toward Jax, their jaws hit the floor. Warren Sinclair, Lily's uncle, had retreated to the back, observing the entire drama. He, too, was skeptical of Jax's character. But seeing Lily so completely lost in Jax's world of affection, he felt he had found her weakness. By making their relationship so public, Lily was telling the world one thing. Jax Pierce is under my protection. But she was also telling her enemies another. Jax Pierce is my vulnerability. How arrogant was Lily Astor to display her weakness so openly. It was clear she no longer saw anyone as a worthy opponent. Lily seems to be quite fond of this boy, a voice murmured. It belonged to the mental patient standing behind Warren Sinclair. It was Susanna Sinclair Astor, Lily's mother, the renowned schizophrenic. Her gaze was distant, her tone profound. The Astor family has no place for true love. She continued, her voice a chilling whisper. I won't let Lily follow in Luna's footsteps. This Jax Pierce, he cannot be allowed to remain. Susanna, you can't say that in front of Lily, Warren said, his brow deeply furrowed. You know she's wary of us. She's never been warm to you. The Lily of today is completely different from the girl she once was. The power she wields has long surpassed yours or mine. I've even heard. She showed no mercy to her own brother, Julian. What chance do I, her uncle, have? Warren's voice dropped. Susanna, you insisted on having this birthday party. The real reason was to get a better look at the man who changed her, wasn't it? You're vetting him. Try and see if he can break the curse that Astor women can't live past 25. Am I right? His expression was grim. Looking back 30 years, he never should have let his sister marry into the Astor dynasty, that rising financial empire. He hadn't known what a terrifying viper's nest it was, a place that would devour his sister's happiness and force her to feign madness just to survive. No matter what, I've already lost Luna, Susanna said, her voice trembling slightly. I can't let anything happen to Lily. Brother, this Jax Pierce does seem to have some genuine feelings for her. But 10 years ago, didn't that man seem just as sincere with Luna? The moment I asked him to pay a terrible price, he backed down. Her voice was bitter. A man's promise is the most fickle thing in this world. I don't want Lily to also. Susanna trailed off. The Astor family's secrets ran so deep that even after decades of marriage, she hadn't uncovered them all. Playing the madwoman was the only way she'd stayed alive long enough to plan. She didn't know where Ronan Astor, Lily's father, was now, but falling into Lily's hands certainly meant a fate worse than death. Lily wouldn't kill him. She had been through that organization's training. They didn't kill. They made you wish you were dead. For those you truly hated, death was a release. Susanna, what are you suggesting? Warren's face paled at the memory of his beautiful, brilliant niece, gone just like that. He couldn't let Lily know the cruel truth of what was to come. He had to force a smile, to deliberately blur the memory of Luna. He couldn't openly side with Lily. Ronan had discovered his attempts to protect her years ago and had systematically broken every one of his hands, a clear warning for an outsider to stay out of the Astor family's business. For now, we do nothing, Susanna said finally. Lily is my daughter. I can see. She genuinely loves this young man of unknown origin. The boy is good in every way, except one. He isn't strong enough to protect her. She sighed, a flicker of a mother's hope in her eyes. Of course, she wanted her remaining daughter to be happy. She wasn't a monster trying to break them apart. She just wanted her daughter to live a long, full life. That's all that mattered. The Pierce Villa, master bedroom. Morgan Pierce had come back to get some documents and personal certificates. Ever since she'd managed to post her own bail, she had immediately resigned as CEO of Pierce Financial. She had given too much to that company, sacrificing her health for years to keep it afloat. As the eldest, she'd always felt it was her duty. For her siblings, for the family's honor, for the company. But now, after the ugly courtroom battle had exposed the family's rot, the backstabbing and suspicion, Morgan was just tired. She didn't want to be in a family that plotted against each other. She was leaving, and she didn't feel the need to inform anyone. The family was already broken, but she was filled with regret and shame. She had to find Jax, to confess what she had done in her moment of weakness, and find a way to make it up to him. The harm she'd caused was immense. Her lapse in judgment could have gotten him killed. She couldn't pretend it never happened. She needed to repent, to atone. Dragging her exhausted body back to the Pierce villa to pack, she didn't expect to see a figure who should have been locked in a holding cell. She moved like a ghost, silently following Caleb, and stood outside the door, listening to his phone call. This time, she caught him red-handed. She watched as Caleb, clearly looking at their mother's pigeon's blood ruby bracelet sitting safely in the open safe, lied through his teeth, saying it wasn't there. Morgan wasn't foolish this time. The moment she started following him, she had quietly started recording on her phone. She captured the whole thing, his actions, his effortless lies. Just as he was about to succeed, Morgan put her phone away, strode forward, and snatched the phone from his hand. She raised her voice deliberately. "Caleb, what are you doing sneaking into Mom's room again?" Then, she smashed the phone on the floor. Her gaze was cold, questioning, locking onto Caleb. In that moment, all her trust in him, 20 years of care and concern for his frail health, shattered into a million pieces. Morgan's face was pale. It was one thing to know Caleb had lied, to know he was the true source of the family's misery. It was another thing entirely to witness it herself. Her faith crumbled. She could barely stand. "Caleb, are you trying to set up your brother again?" Her voice was a raw, disbelieving whisper. "How can you be so incorrigible?" Morgan stood behind Caleb, her eyes fixed on him, as if seeing for the first time whether the brother before her was a man or a monster. Caleb hadn't expected anyone else to be home. The Pierce villa felt more and more like an empty shell, with his sisters rarely returning. Some of them couldn't return even if they wanted to. He watched as Morgan smashed his phone, his heart sinking. After what happened in court, he already felt on edge around her. He stood frozen, the pressure from Morgan's gaze suffocating. To be caught in the act again, he couldn't imagine what would happen next. There was almost no one left in the family who would unconditionally trust him, who could serve as a shield. His mind raced. His grandfather was at the nursing home. His father was overseas on business. His grandmother, though Skylar had just bailed her out for a fortune, was in the hospital recovering from the shock. His mother was also in the hospital, gravely ill. He didn't dare face his mother, so he had to steel himself against Morgan's accusatory stare. "Morgan, why are you back?" Caleb began, his mind already weaving a new tapestry of lies. It was a skill he'd honed for years. As long as someone else took the blame, he could remain the kind, cultured young master of the Pierce family, the rightful heir. "It's not what you think. It was Skylar's shit." "Caleb, I suggest you think very carefully before you speak again." Morgan cut in, her voice dangerously calm. "I was recording." She had him figured out now. He was the master manipulator, the one the entire family had blindly trusted. She wouldn't be fooled again. She owed Jax too much. To atone, she had to be resolute. As the eldest, the one thing she couldn't stand was her siblings hurting and betraying one another. And now, she had become the very thing she despised. She had no trust left for any of them. Caleb's jaw snapped shut. His expression morphed into one of disbelief and wounded pride. "Morgan, you don't trust me anymore? I'm your brother. You've always doted on me the most." He pressed on, his voice cracking. "I know I couldn't defend myself in court, but you know my character, who I've been all these years. Do you really not trust that at all? When you're stressed from working late, I brought you that aromatherapy diffuser. Yes, Jax asked me to bring it, but he said you were angry with him. I was afraid if you knew it was from him, you wouldn't use it, so I didn't tell you the truth. But Morgan, it was a white lie. He asked me to do it. Why am I the one being blamed for stealing his credit?" "Morgan, is any of this fair to me?" Caleb's eyes reddened, as if he were suffering a great injustice, heartbroken by her suspicion. "You always said the most important thing for a family is trust and unity. But look at us now. I admit I had my own selfish reasons. I just wanted our family to be whole again." His voice grew desperate. "Haven't you noticed, Morgan? All of this chaos. It started when Jax came home. I've been trying to cover for him, to hide the good things he's done so the rest of you wouldn't resent him for being a jinx. But now, my attempts to shield him have made me the villain. It proves that even I can't suppress his bad luck. If you want to blame me, to expose my lies that were meant to protect this family, I'm willing to accept it," Caleb declared, his voice choked with emotion. He was so frail, a paper-thin figure swaying on his feet, looking as if he could collapse at any moment. "All I want is for our family to be at peace. Caleb's illness had always been the family's greatest weakness. Seeing him like this, looking as if he were about to stop breathing, Morgan felt her hand, which was clutching the recording device in her pocket, tremble. She didn't stop the recording, but she hesitated. He was clutching his chest, his face slick with a cold sweat. It didn't look fake. For years, any emotional distress could send him into shock, requiring an emergency trip to the hospital. For a moment, Morgan was torn. Could she trust him? Caleb, how long are you going to keep up this act? She finally spat out, shaking herself from her doubt. Do you think I'll believe a word of that? Get up. I'm taking you to Jax myself. I want you to clear his name in person. She wasn't falling for it again. If she let him get away with it every time, she would be the real fool. How could she have ever been qualified to be a CEO? Caleb's breath hitched, tears still clinging to his eyelashes. Morgan, I'm not acting. But this time, Morgan stood her ground, refusing to go near him. When he reached out for her, she ruthlessly slapped his hand away. Her voice was colder than she'd ever heard it. Caleb, aren't you tired of playing the same trick? She leaned in, her voice dripping with venom. I've often wondered, after all these years of being so sick, how you've managed to cling to this pathetic life. Don't tell me. Your illness is a lie, too. Of course, this was just a barb thrown in anger. Caleb's illness began in childhood and had been very real. It was only Jax's repeated, selfless blood transfusions that had made him seem better in recent years. To be suspected to this degree, to see his ultimate weapon fail to elicit any sympathy from Morgan, was devastating. Caleb's mind fractured. Morgan, you've always loved me the most. How could you think that of me? He cried. When I was sick as a child, you knelt in the ancestral hall for 3 days and nights without food, just to pray for me to wake up. Have you forgotten all that? Morgan, I'm begging you. Take me to the hospital. I feel awful, I can't take it anymore. His voice was a weak, trembling whisper as he crumpled to the ground. He was made of flesh and blood. He couldn't believe Morgan could remain so unmoved. But she stood there, a statue of ice, her brow furrowed in disgust. Caleb, what makes you think I could ever be fooled by you again? She said, her voice heavy with authority. If you love acting so much, you can drop dead right here in front of me. I won't lift a finger. She took a step back. And another thing, don't ever call me your sister again. You don't deserve to. Morgan watched his pain display, but there was no pity in her eyes, only fury and a cold, hard disgust. There was even a flicker of hatred. He was right. She had knelt in the ancestral hall for him. She had climbed a mountain with 3,000 steps, kneeling and bowing at every single one, her forehead and knees bruised and bleeding, all to pray for his health. As an older sister, she had been flawless. And what had her devotion earned her? Endless lies and manipulation. Morgan was truly bone-deep tired. Where's Jax? I'm taking you to him right now, so you can get on your knees and beg for his forgiveness, she snarled. Caleb, when you do something wrong, you own up to it. That goes for both of us. She moved forward, ignoring his collapsed form on the floor, and grabbed his arm, ready to drag him out. She was half mad herself, desperate to make things right. But just as she lunged, she heard the sharp thump-thump of a cane approaching rapidly from behind. Insolence, a sharp, aged voice cried out. Morgan Pierce, you dare touch my grandson. The ancestors are watching, and they will punish you, you heartless wretch. If you lay a hand on my precious boy, I will deal with you myself. Matilda Pierce approached, her steps firm as she leaned on her cane. She didn't look frail. She looked formidable, a matriarch radiating an aura of absolute authority, ready to defend her favorite grandchild. Mrs. Pierce, you're getting old and your eyesight is failing. Morgan shot back, her patience completely gone. You should take a good, long look at whether you're keeping a man or a monster by your side. Don't let yourself be sold off, with not even your bones left to show for it. She had endured enough of the old woman's abuse in court. But Matilda's indulgence of Caleb knew no bounds. It was as if she, the eldest, was expected to carry all the family's burdens and take all the blame. Why? This family no longer treated her like a human being. She had to start looking out for herself. You wretch, you've been completely brainwashed by that jinx, Jax. How dare you disrespect your elders? Matilda shrieked. Someone, tie this monster up and throw her in the ancestral hall to repent. Morgan ignored her. Though she spent her days in an office, she was a CEO who kept herself in shape. Even in her current state, she could easily handle a frail boy and an old woman. I'd like to see anyone try. Her years, as the head of the family and company, gave her an authority that made the house staff hesitate. That was presence. Caleb is coming with me today, Morgan declared. No one is stopping me. If you get in my way, I will cut you. She hauled Caleb up by the collar of his shirt, dragging his limp body in front of their grandmother. Don't you dare use our ancestors to guilt me. I'm done being a Pierce. She glared at Matilda. You call me a wretch, you call Jax a wretch. But this thing I'm holding, he is the real monster. Do you want to hear the recording of your precious liar in action? Morgan's face was pale, but she was running on pure adrenaline, desperate to get to Jax. She not only dragged Caleb with her, but also snatched their mother's pigeon's blood ruby bracelet from a safe. Jax, you have to wait for me. I'm coming. I'm going to clear your name myself. I know I misunderstood you. I know I did so many things wrong. We've hurt each other, but it's time to make peace. Whatever I did to you, after the public humiliation I endured, surely you can forgive me now. Morgan hit play on the recording. The sound of Caleb's voice, lying about the bracelet, filled the air, laying the truth bare before Matilda Pierce. Grandma, it's not like that. She misunderstood. Caleb pleaded, tears streaming down his face like broken pearls. He looked so fragile, so defiant in his pain, a picture designed to inspire pity and protection. He was used to being weak. He couldn't afford to struggle against Morgan now, or would confirm that his illness was a sham. He could only use his words. His grandmother was one of the last people in the family who still believed in him. He couldn't lose her. But before he could continue, Matilda's cloudy eyes filled with tears of their own. Caleb, you don't have to explain. Grandma knows. I know you had good intentions. You were just trying to provoke that bastard Jax, to make him come home. But oh, my dear Caleb, that wretch isn't worth you dirtying your own hands. You were foolish, and now your sister misunderstands. Don't worry. No matter what, Grandma will always believe you. You're our family's lucky star. Everything you do is for the good of the family. It's a shame Morgan, as the eldest, can't see that. Matilda was furious, but she couldn't overpower Morgan. All she could do was glare at her with pure hatred. Morgan was speechless. The level of favoritism was so extreme it was absurd. But this was the lens through which her grandmother had always seen Caleb. He came first, always. Fine. Just fine. Morgan spat. The two of you should be locked away together for the rest of your lives. Don't come out and poison anyone else. Her face was a mask of fury. She dragged Caleb out of the house. As she stepped out of the villa, she saw a familiar figure. The woman was holding a new lunchbox, a bright blue ceramic container with a Superman logo on it. She was dressed simply but neatly, a cloth wrapped around her hair, giving her a warm, rustic look. Her skin was tanned and healthy, but she carried herself with an air of anxiety, as if she had been pacing in front of the gate for a long time. When the woman saw Morgan dragging Caleb out, she started to rush forward, but then stopped, resuming her anxious pacing. Phone likes dumplings, the woman muttered to herself, her mind seeming to drift. Mommy made lots of dumplings for Phone, all kinds of fillings. No chives, because Phone doesn't like chives. Why won't Phone come home? Mommy made so many dumplings. Mommy misses Phone so much. She seemed to be in her own world, lost in a haze of grief, the way a mother who has lost a child might be. Sometimes lucid, sometimes lost. Morgan didn't look twice. She was about to get in the car and drive straight to Jade Vine Manor. But a sudden gust of wind blew the scarf from the woman's face. Morgan slammed on the brakes. The woman, she looked just like. Morgan's first instinct was to get out of the car. But when she saw Caleb looking in the same direction, her expression tightened. When it came to anything concerning Jax, she had to be careful now. She couldn't let Caleb get near anything that could be used to hurt his brother. She remembered how much Jax had cared about his adoptive family when he first came back, how he'd even brought a photo of Mrs. Jiang to her, begging her to use her connections to find the woman. But back then, Morgan had been on her mother's side. They both saw Jax's attachment to his adoptive family as a sign he would never truly be loyal to the Pierces, that he would always be a snake they couldn't tame. So she had deliberately hidden the information she could have easily found. She knew his adoptive sister, Hannah Jiang, though not highly educated, was a brilliant self-learner who had landed a job as a high-level assistant. She also knew Hannah was being harassed at work for being too beautiful, nearly forced to sleep with her boss on several occasions. As a career woman, Morgan despised that kind of behavior. But when she'd happened upon a scene where Hannah was being bullied at a business dinner, forced to toast one executive after another, Morgan had simply watched with cold indifference before walking away. It had nothing to do with her. It was the survival of the fittest for women at the bottom. She was different. She had family backing, a prestigious degree. Her path had been smooth. She couldn't empathize with the struggles of ordinary people. But just as she was leaving, she heard the sound of smashing glass. Crash! She couldn't help but look back through the half-open door. Hannah Jiang, a tall, slender figure, stood there with an icy resolve. She had grabbed a wine bottle, and smashed it over one of the executives' heads. When his colleagues rushed her, she used a broken bottle to slash at them. Within moments, the room was a scene of blood and chaos. Hannah stood in the middle of it all, watching them howl in pain. Her eyes were clear, yet they reflected a cold, deadly light. "I'm not for sale," she had said. "If you want to buy me, you'll have to pay with your life." Rich men feared one thing above all: a lunatic with nothing to lose. And Hannah Jeong had become that lunatic. She looked so normal, but in that moment, Morgan was convinced she was insane. Morgan had left without interfering. She didn't know what happened next, but the incident solidified her prejudice. A boy raised in such a twisted, violent environment couldn't be any good. The seeds of disdain had been planted. But now, looking back, Morgan wondered, where did a girl with no background like Hannah get that kind of courage? Or was it just that women from the slums had nothing to lose? A storm of complex emotions raged within her. She averted her gaze. This wasn't the right time to approach Mrs. Jeong. She slammed her foot on the gas and sped away from the Pierce villa. Caleb, who had been putting on an act, was genuinely shaken by the emotional roller coaster Morgan had put him through. He curled up in the passenger seat, his mind racing, trying to figure out how to stop his sister's madness. He hadn't noticed the woman by the gate at all. Jadevine Manor. Lily felt like the happiest woman in the world. "Jack's being with you. It's pure bliss," she whispered. "Am I really worth it? Worth him paying such a price?" She knew how hard he worked for his money, the pressure he was under. Though she had given him capital, he had used his own hard-earned profits to buy her this gift. Her heart ached for him, for the sacrifices he made. To love someone was to constantly feel you owed them. She felt she wasn't worthy, and, at the same time, that she hadn't given him enough. "Lily, in my eyes, you are worth the very best of everything," Jack said. "Wife, from now on, every day will be a day you receive a surprise. I want my woman to be happy always, safe forever." He stepped forward, ignoring Skylar, and personally fastened the pigeon's blood ruby bracelet onto Lily's slender, pale wrist. Then, with the grace of a true gentleman, he bent down and kissed her hand. His lips brushed the back of her skin, sending a jolt of tingling warmth through her. Such an intimate gesture, in public. To everyone else, it was just another move by the pretty boy to flatter the great Lily Astor. But Lily's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. The high and mighty heiress, the ruthless so, looked utterly vulnerable and moved. In the next moment, under the shocked gazes of everyone present, she threw herself into Jax's arms. "Jax, just having you by my side is more than enough to make me happy," she said, her voice muffled against his chest. "But your surprises, your gifts, I love them too." She looked up at him. "Husband, meeting you is the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. I'll cherish it forever." Jax looked down, meeting her glistening eyes. He was momentarily speechless. He had only done what any husband should do, but in Lily's eyes, it was as if a god had bestowed a blessing upon her. She loved him so much, and he could never, ever betray that love. "Lily, you said everything I was going to say," he murmured. "Don't worry. This time, I came to you willingly. You didn't use up any of your luck. Our Lily is going to have a lifetime of good fortune." He felt the woman in his arms was as soft and pliable as a little rabbit. He couldn't resist. He reached up and gently pinched her supple cheek. This act, so presumptuous it was like petting a sleeping tiger, was something no one would have dared to even dream of. But Jax did it, and he was still standing. The crowd felt their jaws detach from their skulls. Holy crap, what is this guy? Is he born with a divine talent for taming Lily Astor? The next moment, utterly charmed by his gesture, Lily stood on her toes and planted a soft kiss on his jaw. It was the first time she had ever kissed him in such a formal setting, surrounded by people they knew. It was an absolute seal of approval. The official stamp of Lily Astor. Oh my God, Lady Astor has such a gentle, proactive side. I always thought she was a demoness, but look at her when she's in love. Even Tycoon can blush. Damn, this Jax Pierce is not to be underestimated. I'm starting to think JX Innovation's success isn't entirely due to Lady Astor's guidance. I'm starting to trust her judgment. This young man must have something special about him. The way he handled that bet with Skylar Pierce, so calm and confident. I have a feeling he's going to win, and that he was setting a trap for her from the beginning. Exactly. The man Lady Astor chooses can't be a nobody. I'm betting Jax Pierce is going to build his own business empire before long. Of course, there were still those who looked down on his humble origins. Get real. No matter how successful he becomes, he's still just a pretty boy who got his start by sleeping his way to the top. Sam Cole didn't like the sound of that. He walked right up to the old executive, leaned in, and stared at him intently. The executive froze. You're so old and ugly. You're just jealous you can't get a sugar mama, aren't you? Sam said with a smirk. Jealous that our Jax is handsome, charming, young, and in great shape? The executive felt his soul shatter into a million pieces. That was a direct hit. Jax knew that when Lily had kissed his jaw, it wasn't where she truly wanted to kiss him. He knew where she wanted to stake her claim. Lily Astor was a woman of immense possessiveness. When they kissed, she wanted to devour him, to consume him whole. But she always held back, afraid of hurting him, her touch a tender caress, a gentle entanglement. His lips would always be red and swollen afterwards. But the feeling, it was exhilarating. He had grown to love those kisses, that dance of dominance and surrender that was the truest form of their love. This time, however, under the watchful eyes of everyone, Lily had pulled back after kissing his jaw, looking up at him with a quizzical, almost wounded expression. Her eyes were moist, making her look like a little white rabbit with red eyes. Jax felt his heart melt. She blinked, her gaze clearly saying, "Why aren't you kissing me back? I want you to. I really, really want you to. I want to possess you completely. Like at home, on the bed, or in the sunless basement." Those secret, beautiful moments were the sweetest things she had ever tasted. In Lily Astor's world, there was no such thing as a crowd. Everyone else was just grass or ants, unworthy of stopping her from taking what she wanted. Jack saw it all in her eyes. But if he let her have her way here, things would escalate into an R-rated scene very quickly. He couldn't let that happen. He had to take control. So after she kissed him, he reached out and tipped her chin up, his gesture firm, dominant, seizing the initiative. A collective gasp went through the room. What the hell is Jax Pierce doing? Is he trying to start a rebellion? Everyone knew Lily Astor was the one who held the reins. She did not tolerate being challenged, let alone being overpowered. Jax was treading on sacred, dangerous ground. Nathan, standing off to the side, started scanning the grounds for a good burial spot. Maybe it's not too late to start digging. Even having seen their intimacy at Moonshadow Estate, he'd always seen Lily in charge. This was new. Was Jax staging a coup? Lily, however, felt a jolt of something entirely different. She loved being in control, but being controlled by Jax. This was a novel, thrilling sensation. Seeing no resistance, Jax's hand slid from her chin to her neck, his grip a gentle but absolute assertion of dominance. "Lily, I love you," he whispered. He leaned down and pressed his lips to hers. This time, it was he who initiated, he who controlled. It wasn't born of her coercion, but of his own volition. It felt like a slave, finally freed, singing a song of triumph. Sam Cole swallowed hard, an unexpected feeling of pride swelling in his chest. "Way to go, Jax. You're finally eating that soft rice the hard way." The next moment, Sam felt a soft touch on his waist. A fragrant breath tickled his ear. "Sam," a husky voice whispered. "Sam," a husky voice whispered. Ever tried taking the lead? Sam had never experienced anything like this. He and Kira had been together since they were young, their relationship pure and innocent. He had cherished her, treated her like a treasure, willing to do anything for her. He'd worked endless part-time jobs and won scholarships, all because she'd once said she wanted to live in New York City. He was saving up to buy them a home. He had never even touched her intimately, wanting to save it for their wedding night. But it had all been a one-sided dream. The cake he considered too sacred to even taste had been trampled and ruined by someone else in a corner he couldn't see. Sam had truly loved Kira, and he couldn't just let it go. Even knowing he'd loved the wrong person, the pain was real, not for her, but for the love he had given so freely. He knew he wasn't ready for someone like Isabel Croft. Even if she wasn't Lily's niece, he just couldn't. Sam took a step back, retreating from her advance. "Isabel, I'm sorry," he stammered. I've never taken the lead, and I won't. With you." He quickly looked away. When she had leaned in, the view her dress failed to contain had flashed before his eyes, and he hadn't been fast enough to shield them. "Oh," Isabel said, a sly glint in her eye. She hadn't been serious. She was just teasing this honest man. "That's fine. I can teach you. All you need to know is that I kind of like you." She admitted to herself that she'd been annoyed when her Aunt Lily had asked her to look after some stranger. But after Nathan gave her the young man's file, detailing his devotion as her fan and his recent trauma, a strange sense of compassion had taken root. Her aunt hadn't forced her. The decision to go to the hospital had been her own. It wasn't just pity. For years, this fan had sent her postcards and handmade gifts. During the darkest period of her life, she had received a handmade preserved flower from Sam. He seemed to love making things by hand, and she found herself looking forward to his letters, where he poured out his heart. Like most fans, Sam had written things he never expected his idol to read. And because of that, he had been brutally honest. So while this was the first time Isabel had met him in person, she felt she'd known him for a long time. She knew how much he had loved that girl, how much he had wanted to give her a home, and she knew how it had all fallen apart. Seeing him lying in that hospital bed, covered in wounds, his eyes dead to the world, she had felt a jolt in her heart. She had walked into his room, a vision of elegance and grace, and gently began to adjust his bandages. "Sam," she'd said softly, "Lady Astor sent me to take care of you. Will you let me, for a little while?" In that instant, a flicker of light had returned to his dead eyes. He looked at her as if he couldn't believe she was real, his ears turning bright red. No, you don't have to, Isabel. Lady Astor was just kidding. You should go back to work. I'll tell her not to bother you." Sam was stunned. He knew Lily Astor was powerful, but this was on another level. If he asked her for a UFO, would she have one delivered? "Sam, don't worry about it," Isabel had said, her voice gentle. "I wouldn't dare disobey an order from Lady Astor. You're badly hurt. Just let me take care of you for a few days, okay?" It was an excuse she could have easily declined, but seeing him in person, so broken yet with such stubbornness in his clear eyes, she, who was so used to the cynical sharks of showbiz and high society, felt a spark of interest. She liked sincere, passionate, clean-hearted young men, and that spark was enough to make her want to stay. Sam frowned, thinking of Lily's terrifying nature. He looked at Isabel's seemingly troubled expression, worried that refusing her help might cause problems for her with Lily. So he forced his broken body to sit up. Then, "I'll be troubling you, Isabel," he'd said, still flustered, but unable to lie to himself. A tidal wave of emotion was crashing through his mind. Quinn Vanderbilt waited patiently for Jax to pull away from Lily before cutting in. Since she had agreed to act as the guarantor for their bet, she had a role to play. "Jax, present your evidence to prove the origin of this pigeon's blood ruby bracelet," she announced coolly. "And Skylar, you present yours. Has your witness not arrived yet?" Skylar stood frozen. She had called her fifth sister, Sierra, but Sierra had stubbornly defended Jax, even daring to slander Caleb. Skylar couldn't listen to it. In the end, though, Sierra had agreed to come home and bring the evidence. Still, Skylar was uneasy. She tried calling Caleb again, but the line was busy. A knot of worry formed in her stomach. The whole family was acting strangely. What if someone had been brainwashed by Jax and was hurting Caleb? My sister will be here soon," Skylar said, her voice tight. "I've also informed my mother. As the true owner of the bracelet, she has a right to know." She shot a pointed look at Jax. She knew he had always cared deeply about their mother's opinion of him. Their mother had been good to him once, before he had disappointed her time and time again. Skylar expected to see him falter, to see a flicker of guilt. But Jax stood there like a great pine tree, unyielding and proud. Standing next to Lily Astor, he projected an aura of immense value and status. Skylar had to rub her eyes. Was she seeing things? Was this the same scrawny, meek boy who had first returned to the Pierce family? In 4 short years, he had grown into a formidable presence. "Fine," Quinn said, unconcerned. The banquet had started, and the other high-powered guests had already turned to their own conversations, though the main topic of the night was undoubtedly the mismatched pair of Jax and Lily. Jax remained silent, offering no proof. Quinn understood. This boy looked harmless, but he was deviously clever. She wondered if Lily Astor could handle a man with that kind of hidden cunning. Half an hour later, the doors opened to admit a few people. Skylar looked up, her eyes filled with hope, but her expression soured when she saw who it was. "Morgan? Why are you here?" Skylar hadn't seen her eldest sister in some time. She was shocked by her appearance. Morgan looked haggard and worn. The impeccably dressed career woman, who always looked her best, was in casual clothes, without a heel in sight. She was a ghost of her former self. The proud, arrogant woman who walked with a storm at her back was gone, replaced by this defeated figure. What happened to you? Did Jax do something to you?" Almost immediately, Skylar's thoughts went to the one person she blamed for everything. Jax just shrugged indifferent. He had already had his revenge on Morgan. Letting her live like this was far more interesting, and far more painful, than killing her. "Skylar, what happened to Morgan has nothing to do with Jax," Caleb whimpered, having been dragged in by Morgan. He saw his chance and spoke before she could. It's all my fault. Please, don't misunderstand Jax anymore." Morgan's eyes narrowed. Caleb was trying to stir up trouble again. She raised her hand to slap him, but Skylar, whose presence now seemed to eclipse Morgan's, caught her wrist. "Morgan, what are you doing?" Skylar stared at her in disbelief. Morgan had always doted on Caleb. She would never have hurt him. This had to be Jax's doing. You know Caleb's character. He's kind. How can you doubt him? She snapped. If Jax hurt you, Go after him. Why are you taking out on Caleb? You're failing as the eldest sister. Skylar tried to pull Caleb behind her to protect him, but Morgan wouldn't let go. Your good little brother. Morgan's laugh was brittle. Your good little brother is a liar who saw Mom's bracelet sitting in the safe and then told you it was gone. Of course, you don't have to believe me. She held up her phone. I recorded it all, and it's already uploaded to the cloud. Destroying my phone won't do any good. I've scheduled the original video to be posted from my verified Twitter account. Caleb had a little taste of fame with you, didn't he? He has a following. A character like his should be exposed before he poisons the well for the next generation. She didn't need to show them the phone. Her words were enough. When she decided to record it, she made sure it couldn't be erased. As she spoke, Nathan pulled out his phone and checked the trending topics. Sure enough, a post from Morgan's official CEO account had blown up a few minutes ago. No one had noticed. He quickly showed the phone to Lily and Jax. Soon, all the tycoons in the room were pulling out their own phones to get in on the gossip. Morgan, you can hate me, but I'm your brother. How could you destroy me? I'm your brother. Your own brother. Caleb finally broke. He knew she would release the video, but he never thought she'd post it publicly online. This would leave him with no chance of a comeback. Caleb, when you were framing your brother Jax, did you ever stop to think that he is your brother, too? Morgan's eyes were bloodshot, her voice cracking as if razors were scraping her throat. And he is my brother, too. Caleb, when you lied to me, you should have known this would be the end. You brought this all on yourself. Skylar was stunned, her world tilting on its axis. The idyllic image of her harmonious family was shattering before her eyes. As Morgan spoke, she instinctively glanced toward Jax. She was doing all of this to atone for what she'd done to him. Her eyes stung, not just from anger, but from a deep, sorrowful pain. The pain of realizing that Jax hadn't looked at her once. Was she that worthless in his eyes? Morgan was in no better state, letting out a pained roar like a cornered beast as her world collapsed. Skylar still couldn't accept it. She fumbled for her phone, pulled up the trending topics, and watched the video. It was another brutal blow to the head. It wasn't just that Caleb's lie had destroyed his minor celebrity persona. It was direct, undeniable proof that she had lost the bet. How was this possible? She stammered. That bracelet looked exactly like the one Jax took. The one that belonged to Mom. Jax has stolen before. It was only natural to assume he did it again. Skylar swayed on her feet. She could accept that Caleb had lied to help her. She could even accept that Jax had somehow reformed and stopped his thieving ways. But she could not accept the price of her bet. YK Tech wasn't just hers. She was an investor, but she held a position with decision-making power. And with Quinn Vanderbilt as the guarantor, she would have to pay the price she had promised. The confidential data itself wasn't a huge help to a new company like JX Innovations. The real terror was the person behind Jax, Lily Astor. If Lily, the head of a financial empire, got her hands on YK Tech's raw material supply chain, it would be a death blow. Skylar could dismiss Jax's little internet company, but him wanting access to semiconductor material channels made her deeply suspicious of the powerhouse behind him. Lily Astor, no matter where she stood, was a force to be reckoned with. That's enough. Jax's voice cut through the air, cold and rational, laced with disgust. Ms. Pierce, if you have grievances to air, this is not the stage for your performance. Go home and prepare the documents for your semiconductor supply chain. Miss Vanderbilt will ensure I receive what is owed to me. Now, you can get lost. You're not welcome here. None of you. Quinn knew her role. She spoke decisively, her gaze sharp and unforgiving. Ms. Pierce, my reputation in this industry precedes me. Since the bet is settled, I, as the guarantor, will personally send my people to YK Tech headquarters to coordinate with your team. In business, you be wise not to play games with me, or you will die a very miserable death. Quinn didn't say the words, but they hung in the air, echoing in everyone's mind. Skylar, though not on Quinn's level, was still in the business world. She knew Quinn's methods were more openly ruthless than Lily's. She couldn't afford to cross her. But the loss, it was catastrophic. Jax, she said, her voice strained. Can I talk to you alone? She knew going through Quinn was a dead end. She had to swallow her pride and appeal to Jax. He was, after all, related to her by blood. In the past, a few kind words from her, and he would do anything she asked. Back then, she had been too proud to accept the scraps he offered. Now, she was practically begging. Surely he wouldn't hold out for long. With that thought, Skylar lifted her chin, waiting for him to pretend to be reluctant before ultimately agreeing. This time, however, Jax didn't move. He just looked her up and down as if she were an idiot. Did they leave a sewer open somewhere? How did you crawl out? He said, his voice dripping with scorn. Stop embarrassing yourself. That's not a princess complex. That's a bottom feeder tantrum. If you're going to keep flapping your gums, you might as well find a hole and bury yourself in it. And if you have a problem with me, you're welcome to die before I do. He showed her no mercy. The idea of her still calling herself his sister made his skin crawl. Jax, you are so crude, Skylar hissed. You're nothing but a country bumpkin. Other than blood, what right do you have to be in our family, to be in our family's records? Jax, Grandma was right. You could kneel in the ancestral hall for a lifetime and the ancestors would never accept you. She was furious, her pride preventing her from backing down. The insults came tumbling out, not as a deliberate attack, but as an unconscious reflection of her true feelings. TSK, you say that like I give a damn about being in your family's ancestral hall, Jax sneered. I've already cut ties with the Pierce family. Can't you take a hint? You people are like a swarm of flies. Disgusting. Try to claim me as family one more time, and I swear, whatever you Pierces hold most dear is what I will smash to pieces. He had reached his limit. He strode forward, took the wine glass from Quinn's hand, and threw its contents squarely in Skylar's face. Caleb didn't dare breathe. This was the power of standing next to Lily Astor. This was the power he wanted. He regretted ever letting this golden ticket go to a stray like Jax. Morgan heard his threat, and her legs gave out, her face turning ashen. Lily, however, had also had enough. The way the Pierces constantly brought up their ancestral hall. It was clearly a place where Jax had suffered, where they had bullied him. She loathed such a place, and she very much wanted to destroy it. Jax, what's the fun in smashing it? She said, a wicked glint in her eyes. I have cannons. And missiles. Jax stared at her. Lady Astor, are you planning on leveling the city? Skylar stood there, drenched in red wine, humiliated in front of everyone. As a public figure, the shame was a physical blow. But she couldn't fight back. She had been wrong about the bracelet, wrong about Jax. She was in the wrong, and all she could do was stand there and endure the mocking stares from all sides. Trent Crawford, the mogul who had signed Skylar, watched the scene unfold, but made no move to protect his supposed cash cow. He had plenty of money-making tools in his portfolio. The firestorm of public opinion hadn't really touched Skylar. The blame for the lie had fallen squarely on Caleb. He still had big plans for Skylar. The upcoming Underground Street Racing Tournament was her real stage. A little bad press wouldn't matter in the face of absolute talent. Besides, even Lily Astor, with all her power, didn't play dirty in the business world. He knew her style. If she wanted to destroy someone, she did it directly. She didn't need to resort to petty tricks. Lily's suggestion was one Jax had no intention of actually taking. They were in the middle of New York City, and just destroying a little family shrine? What was the fun in that? No, the real fun was in smashing it to bits piece by piece, right in front of the people who cherished it most. In his time with Lily, the most valuable lesson he'd learned was this. To kill a person is simple, but to kill their soul. That is true power. Death is an easy escape. To destroy someone's faith, to shatter their convictions, that is the ultimate nightmare. And this time, he would become the Pierce family's nightmare. Since his rebirth, he had avoided them, finding even the sight of them repulsive. But avoidance didn't solve anything. Lily, we don't need to be so violent, Jack said, his tone casual, as if discussing the weather. This time, how about you let me handle it? I've been holding back for too long. I need to let off some steam. We can't let them have all the fun, can we? Lily purred, leaning against him, her hand intertwined with his. Whatever you do, Jax, I'm with you. As long as he was by her side, she would follow him anywhere, destroy anything. Ooh, how fun. A wide, happy grin spread across her face, her eyes sparkling. Jax looked down at her, utterly charmed. She was so cute, he couldn't resist reaching out and pinching her soft cheek again. Good girl, Lily. Pink bubbles of happiness seemed to float above her head. Oh, I love him so much. He's so handsome when he praises me. If he was like this forever, she could pretend to be a soft little bunny. As long as. He always obeyed her. A flicker of cold, cunning light passed through her eyes before she masked it again with an innocent expression. But how could a viper and a rabbit ever be the same species? Jax, of course, knew her true nature. But a poisonous snake, occasionally coiling around your arm and nuzzling your cheek. The contrast was devastatingly cute. Even he couldn't resist it. Ahem. So, are we leaving now? He asked, gently stroking her hair to soothe her ever-present explosive tendencies. Tonight is your mother's birthday party. It would be rude to leave without seeing her. Shall we go say hello? I brought a gift for her. The viper instantly retracted its fangs. Okay, Lily agreed. But Jax, don't pay too much attention to her. She's lost her mind to her illness. She doesn't recognize anyone. And she was quite out of line last time. Lily straightened up, took his arm formally, and the pigeon's blood ruby bracelet on her wrist gleamed, the deep red a stark contrast to her pale skin, making her look even more dangerously beautiful. Jax remembered. Yes, that was quite a shock. They ignored everyone else and walked through the main hall into a private inner room. As soon as they entered, they saw Warren and Susanna Sinclair standing together. Susanna, in a rose gold gown, looked elegant and serene, a timeless beauty. It was no surprise that the woman who had given birth to Lily Astor was extraordinary herself. Susanna looked up as they approached. Just based on looks, they were a perfect match. A top-tier handsome man and a stunningly beautiful woman. Even she had to admit it. But look for just looks. If his abilities didn't match, if his power wasn't on par, and if he couldn't love Lily with every fiber of his being, he was nothing. Not a worthy match. Mother, uncle, Lily said, her voice as sharp and cold as a scorpion's sting. Mrs. Sinclair. Mr. Sinclair, Jack said, wisely refraining from using familial terms. He could feel their scrutiny, their disapproval. Lily wasn't having it. She pinched his arm gently and looked up at them. This is Jax Pierce. My husband, she announced. He's a bit shy. We're serious. So, uncle, please stop playing your little games. The only reason I haven't flipped this whole place upside down is out of some lingering sentiment for our shared past. And everyone knew Lily Astor had no sentiment for anyone. It was clear the rumors of her being at war with her uncle weren't entirely true. The coldness was real, but it wasn't an open declaration of war. Lily, it's just us here. Your mother is confused. You can drop the act, Warren said, his expression softening into one of genuine warmth. In the privacy of this room, he let down his guard and became her uncle. Jax was bewildered. Lily, this is the first time I'm meeting your husband. He's certainly a fine-looking young man, Warren said with a smile. By tradition, when a nephew-in-law meets the family for the first time, and with your mother being unwell, there should be a gift. I have one here on her behalf. He stepped forward, his eyes crinkling with a wide smile. Here, Jax. This is 10% of Sinclair Holdings shares and a deed to Jade Vine Manor. It's just a small part of your mother's assets. I'm giving them to you now as a sign of her approval. Jax, you can't refuse this small token from your uncle. Jax stood there, not humbled, but momentarily stunned. He glanced at Lily, who gave him a slight nod. A gift from my mother and uncle. I believe that is a custom here. You should accept it, Jax. Lily saw nothing wrong with it. The biggest gift my Jax ever received was the one I gave him. Jax was floored. Wait, you rich families just hand out stock in real estate as meeting gifts? He was a wealthy man now, but he was still having trouble adjusting. Jax, since Lily is so fond of you, I'll have to ask you to take good care of her, Warren said, his tone turning serious. Her illness. It can't wait. He brought it up deliberately. He wanted to see what Jax was really after. Lily's illness, the 25-year curse on Astor women, was public knowledge. For now, she had the family under control. But the moment her health started to fail, the sharks would start circling. The chaos would be uncontrollable. Everyone thought the Astors and Sinclairs were enemies. This was a deliberate ploy. When the time came, Warren could step in to take over the Astor empire, and it would seem like a hostile takeover, not a rescue mission. It was a two-pronged strategy. I've been studying Lily's condition, Jack said, his voice steady. I've learned a great deal about pharmacology from my second uncle. Lily's internal constitution is weak. I've been trying to use medicinal cuisine to regulate it, but it's too slow. I will find more professional help for her. And if, in the end, we can't defy fate, I will walk with her through her final moments, and then I will join her. He turned to Warren, his gaze unwavering. I'm not joking. If anything happens to Lily and I'm still alive, you can use all your power to send me to my grave. I will not have a single complaint. I know a promise like this sounds empty, so I've never said it out loud. But now, in front of the elders she trusts, I want to solemnly tell Lily, you have nothing to fear. I am with you. He took Lily's hand. It was warm and large, smelling of comforting sandalwood, a scent that always made her feel safe. She looked at him, at the sincere oath he was making, and was so moved she could barely breathe. Jax, you don't have to do this for me. Before I die, I'll kill you myself. Lily's heart was torn. She was a cruel, selfish, monstrous person. If Jax didn't want to die, she could help him. But he was willing to die for her. Her heart felt like it was being pierced by 1,000 needles. She was utterly depraved, but his goodness made her ashamed of her own evil. Suddenly, she didn't want to take him with her. She wanted to stay, to spend a few short decades with him. Warren listened, and though he didn't know if it was true, a wave of shock crashed through him. If Jax was lying, he had guts. Because if anything happened to Lily and Jax was still walking around, he would hunt him to the ends of the earth. That was the price of making empty promises in front of him. Jax, mother likes him, Susanna said, her vacant eyes suddenly focusing on Jax. She didn't want to judge anyone, but his sincere declaration had moved her. Regardless of its truth, the fact that he dared to say it put him above most men in the world. Many wouldn't even dare to make such a lie. The thought of death terrified them. "Oh, mother," Jax stammered, still unused to calling her that. "Thank you for bringing Lily into this world. I will love her and cherish her. The wounds she suffered from her family, I will heal them. That is my duty as her husband." He could see that, deep down, Lily cared for her mother. No daughter truly hates her mother. They hate because they once loved, once hoped, and received nothing in return. He understood that feeling perfectly. They were both children starved for love. When Lily heard her mother's words, she froze. Mother said, she likes Jax too? The feeling of having someone she loved be accepted by her family, even for a moment. It was warm. It filled her with a pleasant ease. "Ahem. We have to go," Lily said abruptly, unable to handle the awkwardness of Jax declaring his love in front of her family. She was a woman who craved control, but she was finding that Jax was taking more and more control in their relationship. The change thrilled her. Jax's promise was now seared into the minds of Susanna and Warren. As they watched the couple leave, they saw Jax press a small, exquisite box into Susanna's hand. Susanna's expression was unreadable. She slowly opened the gift. Inside was a delicate snuff bottle, exquisitely carved from white jade. The craftsmanship wasn't perfect, but it was clearly handmade with great care. She had received countless priceless gifts in her life. It was impossible for someone of Jax's standing to give her something that would truly impress her. But he had been clever, unique, and observant. She did have a minor sinus issue, something that was hard to treat. It wasn't serious, but it was a constant discomfort. A snuff bottle was a small, elegant object she could actually use. In that moment, Susanna, though she wouldn't admit it, began to see Jax in a new light. "He is very thoughtful," she murmured. "My Lily has sharp eyes. If he can truly love her, as he promised, then he is a worthy son-in-law for our family." She turned the small bottle over and over in her hand. Her husband, Ronan, had always known about her sinus problems, but had never cared. When she was uncomfortable, he would just say, "If you're not well, see a doctor. I can't cure you. Stop bothering me with these trivial things." Her husband had never cared about the little things. But her new son-in-law, after meeting her only once, had taken the time to carve her a gift by hand. A smile touched Susanna's lips. She was happy for her daughter. Warren stared at her. "Wait a minute, big sister. Didn't you just say you wanted to get rid of him? That was a quick change of heart." "Oof. Jax is too good at winning over women. What about the men? Where's my gift, huh? 1 star would not recommend." Lily dragged Jax out of Jade Vine Manor. Skylar wanted to approach him, to beg for mercy, but seeing the furious pace Lily was setting, she didn't dare. The party isn't over, and Lady Astor is already leaving with Mr. Pierce. Are they that eager? Mr. Pierce? I think it's CEO Pierce now. The man's net worth is on another level. He's already a new titan in the tech industry, and now it looks like he's eyeing the semiconductor market. I'm telling you, soon, he won't be a pretty boy anymore. He'll be a new tycoon, standing on the shoulders of the Astor Empire. And what a loss for the Pierce family. His sisters and brother pushed him to the brink, and now that he's made it, he has nothing to do with them. I think we should all steer clear of the Pierce family from now on. An enterprise that offends Lady Astor doesn't have much of a future. I don't want to get caught in the crossfire. The whispers of the tycoons were not quiet, and they reached the ears of Skylar, Morgan, and Caleb. Each of them was lost in their own emotional turmoil. Skylar, especially, felt betrayed by the brother she had trusted most. "Skylar, I'm sorry. It's all my fault," Caleb whimpered. "I thought you needed me to do that, so I acted on my own. I didn't mean to make things worse. Morgan really misunderstood me. Even if I lied, it was with good intentions." Caleb knew Morgan saw right through him now. His only hope was Skylar. Skylar watched Jax leave, knowing the loss was inevitable. She knew her brother had a good heart and had only gotten into trouble because of her. She swallowed the bitter pill of her loss. With Quinn as the guarantor, there was no escaping it. She saw the mocking looks from the crowd and went to pull the still-dazed Morgan to her feet. "Morgan, no matter who you blame, don't lose your pride," she said softly. "This is not a place for a Pierce to be on her knees. Come on, I'll take you home." Skylar tried to be the peacemaker. She trusted Caleb's explanation and thought Morgan's dramatic breakdown was an overreaction. She knew the pressure sometimes got to her eldest sister. The best thing was to get her out of there. Caleb wanted to help, but he didn't have the courage. The look in Morgan's eyes was pure hatred. He stayed put, knowing his public image was in tatters. But he wasn't planning on a career in showbiz anyway. The news cycle was fast. Another big scandal would come along and bury this one. "I can't go back," Morgan whispered, her face ashen, her eyes still locked on the spot where Jax and Lily had disappeared. She hadn't even gotten a single glance from him. Her voice was faint, as if she might shatter at any moment. Skylar couldn't understand how her proud sister, the powerful CEO, had fallen so far. She ignored her protests, pulled her up, and headed for the door with Caleb trailing behind. Outside Jadevine Manor, Sierra had rushed from the hospital as soon as she heard what Skylar was planning, desperate to warn Jax. She had called him over and over, but the busy signal told her everything she needed to know. She had been blocked, not just on the phone, but in his life. She finally pulled up to the manor, just in time to see Jax and Lily's car pulling away. She ran towards the gate, but she was too late. All she saw was the back of a luxury car disappearing down the road. Was she always one step too slow? Every time Jax had needed her, she had failed him. Did that mean their bond as brother and sister was severed for good? Sierra refused to accept it. She would prove that she could change, that she wasn't like the others who had enabled the abuse. She was truly sorry. She truly wanted to help him. She clutched her car keys and turned to chase after him. They must be going back to Moonshadow Estate. She would wait outside the gates if she had to. She believed her sincerity could still move him. She hadn't known about his strawberry allergy and had forgotten his lactose intolerance. The Pierce daughters had been programmed to care for Caleb, and they had defaulted to assuming the twins shared the same allergies and preferences. It was because they had never considered Jax important enough to remember. That realization had crushed her. She had never been a good sister. Just as she turned, she ran into Skylar, who was propping up Morgan, with Caleb following them. "Sierra, what took you so long?" Skylar demanded. Sierra's expression hardened. "Skylar, Jax didn't steal Mom's necklace. I just cleaned out the safe yesterday. Why didn't you believe me?" She didn't know what had happened inside, but her first priority was to clear her brother's name. "And you, Morgan, you backstabbing snake, what's with the weak act? Are you here to try and finish what you started? Didn't you do enough damage last time?" After being betrayed by Morgan, Sierra had wanted to move out, but had stayed to care for their sick mother. Morgan, for her part, felt a deep sense of guilt and had been avoiding her. "What are you all talking about? I don't understand." Skylar cut in. "We're a family. Let's go home and sort this out. I've already called Dad and told him to come back. This is a mess big enough for the head of the family to handle." Skylar had always looked out for Sierra, and her words carried weight. "All right, Sierra, I know about Caleb's lie, but airing our dirty laundry in public only hurts the family's reputation. Let's go home. Dad will give us a fair judgment." At that very moment, Richard Pierce's plane had landed in New York, and he was on his way to the villa. Under Skylar's mediation, the sisters' tense standoff temporarily subsided. Sierra got in her car to drive back to the Pierce home. At an intersection not far from the villa, both cars stopped for a red light. Suddenly, a massive boom echoed from a distance. A column of black smoke billowed into the sky like a writhing dragon. "Wow, someone's having a bad day. Looks like a gas explosion. The fire department will handle it," Skylar said, trying to lighten the mood as she peered in the direction of the smoke. "Wait, Skylar, isn't that the direction of our house?" Morgan whispered, her face pale. "Judging by the distance, I think the unlucky one is us." A stunned silence fell over the car. The next second, Sierra slammed her foot on the accelerator. In the car behind them, Richard Pierce looked up from his phone. "Who's having such a rotten day?" His driver glanced in the rearview mirror, his face pale. "Sir, I think that's our house." Richard Pierce was speechless. The Pierce villa. Jax and Lily's car pulled up to the grand entrance. It was a familiar, opulent sight. 4 years ago, he had walked through this gate with his head bowed, full of hope and a desperate yearning for family. He knew every plant, every stone. He had paid attention to every detail of this place, every person in it, because he had wanted so badly to belong. In the end, he had gotten nothing. Stepping onto this ground again, a strange energy coursed through him. Lily sensed his shift in mood. She had only been here once before, when she had come with a nervous heart to offer a bride price for Caleb Pierce. She had never set foot here again. During the days she had kept Jax captive at Moonshadow Estate, she had been willing to indulge him whenever he was obedient. She had wanted to bring him back here herself, with lavish gifts, to give him face. She wanted the world to know that Jax was her man, that he was living well, that he would inherit everything from her. She knew no man could resist such an offer. But the man she had chosen was stubborn. He saw every day with her as a mark of shame. He had threatened her. If she tried to bring him back to the Pierce family, he would castrate himself. Lily, who had seen everything in the world of business and in the shadows of her organization, had never met a man with such audacity. But she had been successfully threatened. "Jax, you win," she had said with a smile, watching him tremble as he held a blade to himself. "If you can't do it, shall I help?" she had teased, her eyes pulling him in. But back then, Jax's heart had belonged to Chloe Vance. He was an immovable mountain. So, Lily had come alone, delivering a bride price of $30 million and a chest of jewels. It wasn't much, but it was all the sincerity she could offer at the time. After all, she had given the Jiang family $100 million. She never felt she was spending too much on Jax. She was always afraid she wasn't giving enough, that he would think she didn't value him. This time, returning to this place, Lily felt a rare mix of emotions. Because this time, she could finally walk through the gate openly, hand in hand with Jax. It filled a small, persistent void in her heart. They had barely reached the gate when Nathan kicked it open. Lily had only needed to give him a look. Though it was just Jax and Lily walking up, behind them were more than 20 black-suited bodyguards, their presence radiating menace. An entourage befitting their master. Oh no, young Master Jax is back. The butler and a few of the more astute servants recognized the Astor family crest on the bodyguards' suits and began to tremble. "What's all the noise?" Matilda Pierce's sharp voice cut through the air. She had just sat down in the ancestral hall, trying to calm herself with her prayer beads. "That wretch Jax has the gall to come back. Someone, help me out there. I want to see what kind of trouble that wild boy dares to cause in our house now." She thought he would never dare to return. The ancestors were surely watching over them, suppressing his bad luck. Since he was here, it was time to drag him to the hall, whip him until he was bloody, and make him kneel for 7 days and nights to atone. It was the only way to show respect to the ancestors. "And no, madam, you misunderstand, with young Master Jax is—" The butler stammered, too terrified to get the words out, watching helplessly as Matilda stormed out, cane in hand, ready to confront Jax. She burst outside and saw him, dressed in a fine suit. He was a world away from the scrawny, ugly duckling who had first arrived. Clothes really did make the man. He almost looked like a real gentleman. But he was just a fake, a peacock wearing borrowed feathers. "Jax, what are you doing?" "Shut it, you old hag." Jax's voice, cheerful and terrifying, cut her off. "Get out of the way. I'm about to light a fire." He grinned. "Careful, or we'll turn you into fried chicken." Jax's words were so outrageously defiant that Matilda Pierce felt steam was about to shoot from her ears. She refused to believe he would actually dare to blow up the Pierce ancestral hall. In the eyes of every Pierce, it was their most sacred hallowed ground. Generations of ancestors were honored there. As long as Pierce blood flowed through his veins, he could never commit such a treacherous act, a total desecration of family law and tradition. She stood at the entrance to the hall, planting her cane firmly on the stone. "Jackson Pierce," she seethed, her voice trembling with disbelief. "You dare cause a scene here? This is the final resting place of our ancestors. If you truly offend them, the consequences will bring ruin to every generation of this family. Do you dare? Jackson, no matter what you say, you are a part of this family. If you bring us down, do you really think you'll escape unscathed?" If Matilda had a mustache, it would have been bristling with rage. She stood her ground, utterly convinced he was bluffing. Even if he wanted to destroy the family, he would never touch the ancestral hall. It was the root, the very foundation of the Pierce dynasty. For a descendant to commit such a heinous, unfilial crime would be a sin recorded in the family annals for eternity. The ancestral hall. Jack scoffed. "So what? Let's not even mention that I was never truly a Pierce. My legal documents were never even officially filed with this family. Even when I lived here, who knows if you so-called elders ever bothered to add my name to the family tree in the first place." He let out a cold laugh. "Besides, we're in the 21st century. I don't believe in ghosts. In a material world, what difference does it make if I burn this place to the ground?" Jax didn't need to say so much, but a deep-seated resentment was boiling over. Toward the Pierces, toward this hall where he had been forced to kneel in repentance so many times for crimes he didn't commit, for sins he shouldered for his sisters without a single complaint. He had once, genuinely, seen them all as family. In return, all he had ever received was betrayal and indifference. "Jax, don't." A softer voice cut through the tension. Eleanor Pierce had just returned from the hospital, dropped off by Sierra. Her body was still weak, her spirit wounded. It was the bitter fruit of her own making, and during her recovery, she had done nothing but replay the years in her mind, re-examining every interaction she'd had with Jax. He had always respected her, craved her love as a mother. But she had seen Caleb as her precious son, while Jax was a weed to be ignored. Now, the bond of blood had frayed to the point of breaking. Had he started to hate her for her favoritism? But what choice did she have? The Pierce family had so many healthy children, and only her youngest, Caleb, was frail, sickly, prophesied to be the family's lucky star. A mother's energy was finite. She couldn't possibly give every child equal attention. Favoring one meant neglecting another. She had wanted to be fair, but in the end, she was just an ordinary mother, unable to stop herself from doting on the child she worried about most. Now, facing the consequences, Eleanor was forced to reflect. Had her coddling of Caleb turned him into a weak, entitled man who brazenly stole his own brother's achievements? Her mind was a tangled mess. The physical scars on her body were a constant, humiliating reminder. Her husband, Richard, cared so much about a woman's beauty. Even if her face was untouched, the damage to her body was something she couldn't bear for him to see. What if he came home and was disgusted by her? And then there was the truth she'd learned from Sierra. The custom lotions, the scar creams, the potent herbal treatments that had preserved her youthful skin for years. They had all been secretly provided by Jax. It was his silent way of caring for them, his way of expressing a love they had never returned. But now he was done giving. Eleanor's heart lurched. If Jax truly cut ties with the family, would her scars become permanent, just like Scarlett's? Would she be disfigured? She couldn't accept that. No matter her motivations, she had to stop him. As his birth mother, she refused to believe he felt nothing for her. She spoke his name softly, a warmth in her voice he had never heard from the matriarch of the Pierce family. Jax! For a moment, he actually paused. Jax, I'm begging you, don't do this. Let me be the one to pay for all the ways this family has hurt you, she pleaded, her voice thick with emotion. You might not know this, no one ever told you, but when you were born, you were the first child I held. Your name, Jackson, it comes from my maiden name, Jiang. It was meant to represent your father's love and mine. For you. I know I've done so many things wrong, Jax, but I see that now. I'm not asking you to forgive me, but please, just give me a chance to make it up to you. I was wrong to be biased. From now on, I swear I'll treat you and your brother, and all your sisters, exactly the same. Her performance was flawless. She had tasted the bitter consequences of her actions and was desperate for a solution. She was willing to accept him, to dote on him the way she had on Caleb. He was her son, after all. Jack stopped, not out of sentiment, but morbid curiosity. He wanted to see what kind of face she would put on after being cornered. So, she could call him Jack so easily. She could change her biased ways. His name even had a romantic backstory. How ironic. For 4 years, had she ever, even once, thought of him as her son? Had she ever remembered that supposed love she felt at his birth? No. She had treated him like a walking blood bank, to be summoned and dismissed at her whim. His gaze was heavy, his eyes so complex and piercing that Eleanor felt her lies were about to be stripped bare. Fine, Jack said slowly. I can forgive you. His voice dropped cold and sharp. So, Ms. Pierce, why don't you light the first match? If you set this hall on fire yourself, then I'll believe you. He raised a hand. Give Ms. Pierce a torch. One of Lily's bodyguards, attuned to Jax's every command, instantly moved. They respected the young master with the same fear and reverence they held for Lily. He was the love of their boss's life, not to be slighted. Yes, sir. A lit torch was brought forward. Ms. Pierce, Jack said, his voice a silken thread. Light it up. The torch was pressed into Eleanor's hand. Her entire body trembled. This was monstrous. Deep down, Jax was still a brood, a lowlife. Why couldn't he change? She was so disappointed in him. Her eyes flickered. She took a step toward him, her face a mask of gentle concern. She had to stop this. No matter what she had done, her status as his mother was her ultimate shield. She drew close, her gaze softening. Then, in a sudden, vicious movement, she lunged, thrusting the burning torch directly at Jax's chest. He hadn't anticipated it. Even a tigress won't eat her own cubs. That was his miscalculation. He recoiled, but it was too late to avoid it completely. The searing flame would scar his back. He would no longer be perfect. Lily would be upset. But in the next instant, a shadow moved faster than thought. Lily appeared in front of him, a blur of motion. She thrust her bare hand out, grabbing the burning end of the torch without hesitation. With a surge of power, she shoved Eleanor backward, a single, powerful kick sending the woman sprawling to the ground. It all happened too fast. Jax, for all his strength, was still human. By the time his mind caught up, Lily was already retracting her scorched hand, her voice chillingly empty. Douse it in gasoline. Her command was absolute. Burn it down. Any place that has hurt Jax does not deserve to exist in this world. Jax stood frozen for a moment. He had once craved his mother's love, but that was a lifetime ago. In this life, he held no illusions about his so-called family. He had only wanted to see their rotten cores exposed. But he never imagined a mother could despise her own son so much that she would try to burn him, to use an accident to save a building. Why? Since she cared so little for him, she didn't deserve to be his mother. The shock lasted only a second before his gaze snapped to Lily. Her lips were pale, her hand horribly burned, yet she seemed numb, her expression blank. Her eyes were vacant, as if only total annihilation could satisfy the insatiable void within her. Her heart, he thought, must be pure black. Arson was second nature to her, and her bodyguards moved with the practiced ease of professionals. No, don't. Are you all insane? Matilda Pierce shrieked from the ground. This is the Pierce estate. We're one of the most powerful families in New York City. Does the Astor family think they can just do whatever they want? She scrambled towards Lily, pleading. Lily, Miss Astor, we're family by marriage. You're my granddaughter-in-law. You should call me grandmother. I'm begging you. This hall is our legacy, our family's most precious spiritual treasure. If you burn it, the family will be ruined, destroyed. I'm just a worthless old woman. If you want to burn something, burn me. Just don't burn my ancestral hall. The hall was the symbol of her matriarchal power, the only place this old woman had ever been able to wield her authority. It was her life's work, her temple. If it was destroyed, her entire world would collapse. For the first time, Matilda was vulnerable. The arrogant pride she had carried her entire life crumbled. She wept and begged, all her earlier fire extinguished. But Lily's bodyguards were veterans of far worse. Burning down a building was a mundane task for them. Get out of the way, one of them growled, shoving her aside. They despised this nest of vipers. That woman had just hurt their boss. It was a capital offense. If Miss Astor gave the word, Eleanor wouldn't be lying on the ground spitting up blood. She'd be dead. TSK, the old bitch got off easy. Gasoline sloshed over the ornate wooden doors and carvings. Another lit torch was tossed, landing at Jax's feet. A few yards away, the ancestral hall stood drenched and waiting. The interior was exactly as he remembered it. He knew every inch of this place, perhaps better than anyone except Matilda herself. But he had only ever entered it to take the blame for others. He was a free man, yet in this house he had lived like a caged beast, shackled by tradition and false piety. Now the beast was free, and it was going to destroy its cage. Jax's first concern was Lily. He noticed this subtle shift in her mood. The fire, had it triggered something in her? Jax, burn it, she whispered, her voice tight. I want you to be the one to destroy it. Your prison, shattered by your own hands. Then nothing can ever hold you again. Jax looked down, his heart clenching as he gently took her burned hand. It was a mangled mess of red flesh and blisters. He was the man. He should have been the one protecting her. Instead, she had been hurt because of him. Lily's eyes were fixed on the torch on the ground, oblivious to her own injury. The pain was immense, but she had endured far worse. This was a minor wound. All she wanted was to break the cage that had once trapped Jax. She hadn't done it herself because she was teaching him a lesson. Whatever binds you, you must shatter yourself. The world offers few saviors. Some paths, lonely and thorny, you must walk alone. Lily, your hand is all that matters to me right now, he said, his voice thick with emotion. But that doesn't mean I won't finish what you taught me to do. Without another moment of hesitation, Jax snatched the torch from the ground and hurled it at the hall. The act took only a second that didn't detract from the all-consuming worry he felt for his wife. The Astor bodyguards watched, impressed. Damn, the young master is a master of multitasking. But there was no denying it. Taking revenge with such clean, decisive action was the mark of a true powerhouse. The Jax of today was a world away from the man who had first arrived at the Astor estate. It was a total transformation. All right, Jax said, turning his full attention back to Lily. Let's get you patched up. He stared at the wound on her palm, a tearing pain ripping through his own chest. Not for the Pierce family, only for Lily. He ached for his Lily. She was young enough to be a naive girl, just starting out in the world. Yet she lived like a hollowed-out puppet. What had she been through? For the first time, Jax felt a desperate, urgent need to know. Lily had taught him to break his chains, had offered him salvation. Now, he wanted, more than anything, to enter her world, to stand by her side. And to save her, too. As the torch met the gasoline-soaked wood, a whoosh of flame erupted. Matilda, scrambling away in terror, could only watch as the fire devoured the temple of her life's devotion. The flames licked at the portraits of the Pierce patriarchs, and with a final, ragged sob, she collapsed to her knees, wailing. How could she face the ancestors now? The inferno raged, but it didn't distract Jax from his task. He knelt before Lily. Notam, made Keith. Nathan, who had been observing silently, thought, "What am I, a vending machine? You're crossing a line, sir. We have a professional relationship, not a doorman and obita thing." But 2 minutes later, Nathan obediently produced a state-of-the-art medical kit. Jax gently guided Lily to a stone bench, kneeling before her as he began to treat her hand, lancing the blisters with painstaking care. With each painful pop, Lily, who should have been crying out in agony, showed no reaction. She didn't even flinch. She was human. How could you not feel pain? She must be in agony, but her self-control was absolute. Jax looked up, seeing the veins standing out on her neck, taut with suppressed pain. His own heart felt like it was being shredded. Of course it hurt. "Lily, you don't have to hold it in, okay?" His voice trembled. "It hurts me to see you like this." He carefully applied a soothing salve. A single, wet drop landed on Lily's knee, spreading into a dark circle on the fabric. Lily's vacant eyes finally registered something. She looked down and saw the man who was at times so gentle, at times so stubbornly alluring, with tears welling in his eyes, his nose red. Jax was crying. Was he crying for her? Because he was hurting for her. A jolt, like an electric shock, shot through her. "Jax, don't cry," she said, her voice a little shaky. "I'm used to it. It doesn't hurt. Really, it doesn't. But how could it not?" Jax looked at the mangled flesh of her palm. How could that not hurt? If he could, he would take the wound himself, even if it were 10 times worse, even if it meant being crippled. Tears streamed down his face. Lily reached up with her good hand and gently touched his cheek. He instinctively leaned into her touch, a small, dependent gesture. "Lily, I won't let you be hurt for nothing." He looked up at her, his voice raw. "You could have stopped her yourself, couldn't you? You didn't. You only kicked her away to protect me. Because you knew Eleanor gave birth to me. But Lily, she never loved me. She regrets having me. A minute ago, she wanted to hurt me, maybe even kill me. A mother like that. I, Jackson Pierce, don't want her." He finished dressing her wound as best he could. He didn't have his custom-made burn salve here. His medical skills could ensure she wouldn't scar, but the pain of recovery was unavoidable. His face was grim, his anguish for Lily hardening into pure hatred for Eleanor. He bandaged her hand, then rose to his full height. The raging fire behind him cast him in a crimson glow, a backdrop of pure destruction. A vicious, murderous aura seemed to swirl around him. Eleanor, who had been kicked across the lawn, was in agony. The blow had landed on her chest, reopening the barely healed wounds beneath her clothes. She coughed, spitting a mouthful of blood. Looking up, she saw Jax, her son, standing before the inferno he had created. He was no longer just angry. He had lost all compassion for her. She was his mother. Even if not for her sake, the ancestral hall was the symbol of their bloodline. To destroy it was to commit the ultimate betrayal. A child like that would be cursed in the family history for all time. But Eleanor couldn't even form the words. She could only watch as the symbol of her family's prestige was consumed by fire. The flames licked through the main doors, devouring the mahogany cabinets and clawing their way toward the high altar where the portraits of generations of Pierces were displayed. Matilda was already hysterical. She was just an old woman, able to do nothing but scream and try to push away the Astor bodyguards, threatening to kill herself. They just stared at her, their eyes as cold and dismissive as if they were looking at an inanimate object. "If you want a life, take mine. I'm begging you. Don't burn the hall," she sobbed, clutching at the arm of a towering bodyguard who had been pouring gasoline. He glanced down at her. Without a word, he upended the rest of the gas can over her head, drenching her completely. "Fine," the bodyguard sneered. "Burn then. That's what you get for messing with our young master." Everyone at Moonshadow Estate, especially the elite team trained by Lily herself, was fiercely loyal to Jax. The day she had kidnapped him and brought him back, she had given a single, explicit order. Jax was her life. They were to protect him as they protected her. That command was etched into their souls. Their gratitude to Lily extended to Jax through a fierce, unquestioning loyalty. Matilda never imagined these men would be so ruthless. They showed no respect for her age, casually dousing her in fuel. Just then, Jax threw the torch. The hall went up in a roar of flames. Matilda screamed, a primal sound of despair. The The world was ending. But the instinct for self-preservation, the fear of death, was stronger. Soaked in gasoline, she didn't dare take a single step closer to the fire. As the flames lit up the night sky, her entire worldview crumbled. Eleanor, you can hurt me all you want. Jax's voice was low and dangerous. But you should not have touched Lily. He rose and pulled a massive custom Desert Eagle from the inside of his jacket. The truth. He hadn't used it yet because the time hadn't been right. But now, a tidal wave of hatred rose in his eyes. He despised the pierced blood in his veins, the constant entanglement that gave him no peace. It was time to make a clean break. Holding the gun, he walked step by step toward the bleeding, broken form of Eleanor Pierce. She looked up. Against the backdrop of fire and smoke, Jax looked like a demon crawling out of hell. Jax, honey, I didn't mean it. Eleanor sobbed. It was an accident, I swear. I was going to burn the hall myself. You have to believe me. She was desperate, tried to crawl to her feet, to explain, but Jax had seen her true nature. Eleanor Pierce was unworthy of being a mother. At least, not his mother. He no longer had to abide by the old-world rules of endless filial piety. He was going to smash them himself. Really, he purred, but Lily was hurt, so you will suffer the same punishment. Hold out your hand. If you break 5 of your own fingers, we can talk. Otherwise, I will make sure the Pierce name is erased from this country. And, Eleanor, I can do it. It was true. This was not the same Jax they could beat and berate. He had just burned down the family's sacred hall without blinking. What wouldn't he do? No matter what, he had the terrifying power of Lily Astor backing him up. He could do anything he wanted. It was only a matter of whether he chose to. And this Jax, this new, dark Jax, was clearly willing to burn the whole Pierce empire to the ground. Eleanor's greatest pride was being the Pierce matriarch, seeing the family flourish under her. She had borne them many children. She was supposed to be in her golden years, reaping the rewards. How could she watch it all come crashing down? Now, Jax's voice was a blade. You will break your own fingers, one by one. The pain would be excruciating. As a society wife, Eleanor had lived a life of pampered luxury. She couldn't bear the thought of any physical imperfection. Now, not only was her body scarred, but Jax was forcing her to mutilate her own hands. Those hands were her pride. They had created exquisite embroidery, works of art that had won awards. They could play the piano, the harp. Her hands were her talent, her last remaining piece of her own identity before she had been consumed by the Pierce family. The children all knew she valued her hands more than her life. And Jax was going to make her destroy them. He might as well just kill her. For a second, she thought of it. But Jax knew her too well. Eleanor wouldn't dare die. She loved her sickly little son, Caleb, too much. She would have to crawl, broken and disabled, to take care of him. She would never choose death. I'll count to 3, Jax said coldly. If you don't do it, I'll blow up one of the side chapels. The Pierce Ancestral Hall was a large complex. Beyond the main chamber were 10 smaller chapels, each dedicated to a particularly distinguished ancestor. Jax had been locked in every single one of them at some point. Jax, please don't force me. Good. Before she could finish the word, Jax pulled a small, sleek object from his pocket, a grenade. He bit the pin with his teeth and hurled it backward. Boom! The ground shook. The explosion, set against the raging fire, illuminated the manic, blood-red gleam in Jax's eyes. Eleanor's scalp went numb. Was this the same wild boy? No, this was a demon. A demon from hell, come to claim his due. You hesitate for 1 minute, I blow up one chapel. Isn't this fun? Jax lifted his chin, his eyes glowing with a dark excitement. A terrifying, cold aura wrapped around him, a storm of madness and obsession. Nathan, ever observant, scurried to his side and discreetly placed another grenade in Jax's hand. When you come to blow up a family's legacy, you've got to make some noise. The Astors did everything with style. Just a little fire? How boring. Nathan was starting to feel that working for Jax and working for Lily were becoming one and the same. The couple had spent so much time together. They'd assimilated each other's course. Were they both turning into Yandras? After delivering the explosive, Nathan retreated to Lily's side. He watched as she casually ran her bandaged hand through her hair, in gesture of effortless grace. But the vicious, bloodthirsty glint in her eyes was enough to make a man's blood run cold. Jax is finally breaking his chains, she purred. I like him more and more. Lily didn't care about her own pain. She saw Jax evolving, becoming a powerful, independent man. This Jax was intoxicatingly attractive. She felt a constant urge to kneel at his feet, and this moment was no exception. What she wanted even more was to rip every shred of clothing from his body, to drag him into a dark room while this excitement was still coursing through her, and watch his crimson, wicked eyes as she completely, utterly possessed him. Realizing where her thoughts were headed, Lily's lips curved into a smirk. TSK, it has been a while since I had a taste of Jax. Seeing him like this, so handsome and dangerous, made her hungry. Lust was clouding her judgment, but thinking about it did distract her from the throbbing in her hand. Yes, Jax was her best medicine. Nathan saw the look in her eyes, the one that said she wanted to devour the young master right here and now. Whoa, Miss Astor, you're the boss, not some kind of starving animal. Jax took another step toward Eleanor, continuing his countdown. The game goes on. Eleanor, this next one's for you. The arrogant tilt of his chin, the mocking smile that twisted into something more sinister. He was the picture of a movie supervillain in his world-destroying glory. Jax had to be insane. Eleanor was numb with terror. She knew that, in his current state, he really would destroy the entire Pierce family. He and that monster from the Astor family were in cahoots now. He was becoming just like her, just as crazy. He would probably end up like Lily Astor, a monster who would kill her own family. Eleanor was terrified. She never imagined that she, a mother, would be pushed into a corner by her own son. Fine, I'll do it. Boom. She had hesitated for just one more second, and Jax had already thrown the second grenade. He was dead serious about forcing her hand, and dead serious about blowing the place to smithereens. Matilda was completely catatonic. Burning the hall was one thing, but he was actually throwing grenades? Was there no law? No order? Then her eyes fell on Lily, sitting calmly nearby, and she understood. The Astor family's rules were the only rules that mattered. To offend them, to offend their terrifying heir. Getting your family wiped out was a blessing. After all, this was the same lunatic who had nearly slaughtered her own family. Watching Jax calmly pull the pin on a third grenade, Eleanor finally broke. She snatched the dagger Nathan had provided and aimed it at her own hand. Gritting her teeth, she brought it down hard. Blood sprayed across the ground. Ah! She had actually severed her own pinky finger. Tears streamed down her face, mingling with the blood smeared on her cheeks. She clutched her hand, the agony so intense her heart felt like it was being ripped apart. Jax was a master manipulator. He inflicted physical pain while simultaneously destroying any hope she had of pursuing her talents. Murder without a conscience. He was becoming more and more like that monster, Lily. He was being assimilated, becoming one of them. Jax stood just a few feet away, watching dispassionately as she was forced to mutilate herself. The old Jax would have been heartbroken. He would have rushed to her side, tried to reattach the finger, done anything in his power to fix it. He had once craved her love so desperately, but now he just stared coldly at her wound, his expression flat as he urged her to continue. To break free from the chains of your family, to sever the limb, it was a painful, bloody process. What are you crying for, Mrs. Pierce? He asked, his voice devoid of sympathy. You brought this on yourself. You should be grateful. I'm only asking for one hand, and not for the life of your precious little Lucky Star, Caleb. You know, if I wanted to, he couldn't escape. He looked up, his eyes glinting like chips of ice. Behind him, the fire danced, a demonic celebration of his transformation. A new Jax was being born from the ashes. He knew he was changing, and he liked it. He no longer had to consider anyone else's feelings. He was the master of his own fate. From now on, no one but Lily Astor would stand before him. He continued his threats, relentlessly twisting the knife. Once you have someone's weakness, you exploit it until they break. Right now, Jax was playing the part of the villain to perfection. And damn, did it feel good to let go. The thrill was intoxicating. Tossing the grenades, hearing the explosions, watching the chapels crumble under his command, it was even more satisfying than the fire. Destroy it. Utterly destroy it all. He was welcoming a new world, one opened for him by Lily. Eleanor stared at him, listening to his cruel words. She was in too much pain to stand, sobbing on the ground. Jax, you know how much these hands mean to me. Do you have to destroy everything I'm proud of to be satisfied? Jax, please just stop. I pay the price. I bled. I'm crippled. Just let me go. She knelt there, still subconsciously believing that he would eventually soften. He was her son. There had to be a limit. He had drawn blood. She had been punished. What more did he want? She had repented, admitted her fault, begged for forgiveness, even severed her own finger. Wasn't that enough? Did he have to be so relentless? A flicker of madness sparked in Eleanor's own eyes. In this situation, it wasn't just Jax who was on the verge of snapping. She was too. She tried to reason with him, to appeal to his mercy, but she had already crossed his one inviolable line. Lily's well-being. And for that, there would be a reckoning. Oh, it seems Mrs. Pierce is still a skeptic, Jax chirped. Well then, let's continue our little game of Minesweeper. Except in this game, Jax controlled all the mines. Matilda, seeing this, heard Jax's threat against her precious Caleb, and it was like a knife to her own heart. She struggled to her feet, a pathetic, gasoline-soaked figure, made even more haggard by the chaos. She had seen a lot in her life, but she had never seen this many explosives. She turned to her daughter-in-law, her usual imperious tone returning. Eleanor, just do what he says and cut off your fingers. You may be losing your fingers, but if you don't cooperate, our sweet Caleb could lose his life. Get your priorities straight. What have you ever contributed to this family? All these years, and you only gave us one lucky star. You were just the incubator. We can't let our grandson be put in danger because of you, can we? Matilda leaned on her cane, her posture regaining its familiar arrogance despite the inferno raging behind her. It was the same ugly face of self-righteousness, always generous with other people's pain. It wasn't her fingers on the line, so she could stand there pontificating just as she had always done from her throne in the ancestral hall. Eleanor had seen that face many times. It was the same face Matilda wore when she demanded Jax give blood to Caleb, her voice dripping with false kindness. Jackson, you're the older brother. It's your duty to protect Caleb. Jackson, you've given him blood so many times. What's one more? Don't be so dramatic. Jackson, how can you refuse? His blood is already mixed with yours. The blood in your veins belongs to him now. He's just taking back what's his. Jackson, it is your great fortune to be able to give blood to our family's lucky star. Every word was seared into Jax's memory, and now, hearing it again, Eleanor was forced to remember those days from her own perspective as a bystander, an accomplice through her silence. Had she felt nothing then? She had. He was her son, too. But the thought of Caleb's frail body had always made her turn away, to pretend she didn't see. Was she innocent just because she hadn't held the needle? No, she was a collaborator, and now the roles were reversed. Now, she was the one being asked to make the sacrifice for Caleb. She had thought, as a mother, that she would do anything for her son, cutting off a few fingers to save his life. She would give her own life, but hearing her mother-in-law call her an incubator, dismissing her entire worth, placing her precious grandson on a pedestal far above her, something in Eleanor snapped. She was a person first, a mother second, just as Jax was a person first, a brother second. No one is born to be another's property. A storm of emotions churned within her. So Jax, was I really wrong? I think I finally understand why you fought back. But this understanding has come far too late. The bloody dagger was still in her hand. The pain was spreading. It wasn't just the physical agony in her hand, but the ache for all the years she had spent as a mindless machine, losing herself. Eleanor looked up, her eyes cold. Mother, she said, her voice dangerously calm, since you love your precious grandson so much, why don't you come over here and cut off one of your own fingers to share his burden? If you can't bring yourself to do it, your daughter-in-law would be happy to assist. The words were an act of supreme, filial impiety. Matilda trembled with rage. Insolence. Eleanor, do you know what you're saying? I am your mother-in-law. How dare you suggest such a disrespectful thing? I will punish you for this today. Eleanor's sanity was fraying. She dragged her broken body toward the old woman she had revered for decades. Punish me? You old hag. You've spent too many years waving your canes and whips around. Do you really think you're so important? The ancestors are gone. Who gave you the right to punish me? I put up with you for years. Caleb isn't just my son. He's your grandson. You have to bear half the responsibility. So why don't you cut off a finger and show some sincerity? Her eyes were wild. The years of repressed anger and pain had finally erupted, and as it poured out, she felt a strange sense of relief. Matilda stared in disbelief. This world, this family, it had finally gone completely mad. Jax calmly watched the dog-eat-dog drama unfold. He knew exactly what each member of his family cared about, what buttons to push to make them break. When a person's deepest defenses crumble, they lash out. It was self-preservation. No one in the Pierce family was willing to sacrifice everything for another. Love was always conditional. From a young age, the Pierce children had to be exceptional to earn their elders' approval. As an outsider, Eleanor was a natural target for a vicious old crone like Matilda. The conflict between them had been simmering for decades, just waiting for a spark. Jax had just handed them a lit torch. He watched for a few minutes, then grew bored. He raised his hand. Nathan, ever perceptive, delivered another grenade. He had to support his young master. Wait, no, serve him. A shiver of fear went down Nathan's spine. One wrong thought, and Lily's scythe might slip. Everybody shut the hell up. Jax's voice cut through the bickering. I don't care who cuts off how many fingers. My terms were 5. 5 fingers before the last chapel is gone. Otherwise, I'll start taking them from Caleb. He had learned how to play them like a fiddle. The human heart was the easiest and hardest thing to understand, full of selfishness and suspicion. Now, he would just let them tear each other apart. He wasn't idle, either. He casually pulled the pin on another grenade and lobbed it at another chapel. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of collapsing stone and roaring fire was music to his ears. This was satisfying. Lily watched him with pure admiration. Her Jax was beginning to accept her world. Did that mean she could finally lead him deeper into it? Into the bloody, ruthless, pitch-black territory that others feared to tread? She knew she needed to get her own condition under control. The next step was to go abroad for intensive treatment. The doctor was an eccentric genius who refused to come to her, no matter how much money she threw at him. She would have to go to him. But after the last month of pushing her body to its limits, how much time did she have left? She watched Jax's manic display. Whatever happened, she would never leave him. Just as the chaos at the Pierce estate reached its peak, a car screeched to a halt at the gates. Richard Pierce and his 3 daughters tumbled out. They rushed into the main house, their eyes drawn to the pillar of fire and smoke rising from where the ancestral hall once stood. The sound of explosions and collapsing walls was terrifying. My God, is this our house? Holy shit, our ancestors. They're being blown up. Who did this? Who would dare attack the Pierce family? I'll kill them. Richard was the first to sprint toward the inferno, his expensive suit flapping ridiculously as he ran. He was on the verge of a breakdown. He burst into the courtyard just in time to see Jax pull the pin on another grenade. Richard pointed a trembling finger, ready to scream at him. The next second, Jax cocked his arm back, preparing to throw it directly at him. Richard froze. Are young people these days all this crazy? The old Jax would have hesitated. He would have thrown it somewhere else, just to scare them. But the Jax of today had nothing but cold excitement in his eyes. His father, Richard, had been one of the primary architects of his misery, always siding with Caleb, always treating him with contempt. He was just as much of a bloodsucker as Matilda. The 3 sisters, who had followed their father, had suspected this was Jax's doing the moment they saw Lily's bodyguards. Their brother, the one they had betrayed and bullied, had returned for his revenge. The memory of him being punished in that very hall, kneeling for hours, flashed through their minds. Now, knowing the truth, knowing how unjustly he had been treated, the memories were agonizing. They had once thought he deserved it. Now they knew better. What kind of terrible vengeance would a person so wronged unleash? This was it. But even they hadn't anticipated this level of madness. As they watched Jax prepare to throw a grenade at his own father, they realized they had gravely underestimated him. Skylar was the first to react. Dad, run, she shrieked, sprinting forward. Jax, you're insane. You're a complete and utter psycho. Jax stood his ground, watching as he hurled the grenade. He saw the terror on his father's face, the way he scrambled away like a cornered rat. The heroic, authoritative image he once had of the man shattered into a million pieces. So much for the great Richard Pierce. Pathetic. But that's what happens when you have to choose between your dignity and your life. Jax, you're crazy. Richard screamed as he ran for his life. Crazy. Jax threw his head back and laughed, a sound of pure, unadulterated glee. I told you I was crazier than all of you put together. And since you're all here now, you can enjoy the fireworks I prepared for you. He raised his hands as if soaking in applause. He had done it, but it wasn't enough. True revenge wasn't just destroying what they valued. It was making them destroy it themselves. It was watching the family rot from the inside out, consumed by their own suspicion, greed, and hatred until nothing was left. Aha! The shockwave from the explosion slammed into Richard, throwing him a dozen yards through the air. He landed in a heap, coughed up a spray of blood, and passed out. So much for the powerful man who had stormed in moments before. Skylar, running as fast as she could, wasn't able to reach him in time. She tripped, twisting her ankle and falling to the ground. She stared in horror at the scene Jax had created. The ancestral hall, the symbol of their family's honor for generations, was gone, destroyed with fire and explosives. He was the epitome of a traitor, spitting on his own heritage. He was a stranger to her. Dad, are you okay? She cried, not daring to move him. I'm calling an ambulance. Just hang on. The arguing mother and grandmother were also stunned into silence. That's your father. You actually tried to blow him up? In that moment, every member of the Pierce family was gripped by a new, profound terror of Jax. Caleb's face was ashen. He was afraid. There was no one left to protect him. In his current state, Jax could easily skin him alive and toss him into the fire. He shrank back, his feet seemingly glued to the spot, as his sisters rushed to their father's side. "Jax, that's your father." Eleanor shrieked, her voice raw. Jax just smiled. "To hell with him. I'm your daddy now. If I don't see 5 broken fingers." "Well, Caleb just got here. I can have some fun with him right under your noses." He was completely unmoved by what he'd done. This was the Lily Astor mindset. Unflappable, even if the world was ending. He was no longer weak. A strong core could not be shaken. "I'll give you 3 seconds," Jax said, picking up another grenade. This was getting addictive. He used to play survival shooter games, and he'd been damn good with grenades. This felt like a real-life round of Counter-Strike. The world was just a game, and he was still the king. 3, he shouted, pulling the pin and lobbing it at another chapel. Boom! He raised his arms in a graceful flourish, as if taking a bow after a magnificent performance. He was handsome, insane, and thrilling all at once. Matilda and Eleanor stared. What happened to 1 and 2? But the message was clear. Jax made the rules. He was terrifying. Eleanor knew if she didn't do something, she would be the one sacrificed. Her hands. Could she really lose all of her fingers? Besides, her mother-in-law was old. She'd had decades of power. She didn't have many years left. Would it matter if she lost a few fingers? She had plenty of younger people to care for her. Her own fingers were still useful. What did the old hag use hers for, other than fiddling with prayer beads and pretending to be holy? The resentment Eleanor felt for Matilda boiled over. This was her chance. Her mother-in-law should be happy to make a sacrifice for her precious grandson. "Mother, Caleb will thank you for this," Eleanor said, her voice dripping with venom. "As his grandmother, you must be so happy to give up 4 fingers to protect him. I wouldn't want to steal this opportunity from you." Matilda's lips parted to spew a condemnation, but Eleanor knew her mother-in-law too well. The woman was a master of being generous with other people's suffering. She could stand on a moral high ground, basking in the gratitude, while someone else paid the price. Hadn't she done the exact same thing to Jax for years, morally blackmailing him into sacrificing for his brother? Why should the old hag always get to stay above the fray? It was time to drag her down and let her feel what it was like to be trapped by her own toxic principles. Eleanor lunged. The dagger was still in her hand. She grabbed Matilda's wrist and, with shocking speed and precision, sliced through the tendons of one of her fingers. She didn't sever it completely. Jax had only said to disable them, but the pain was more than the old woman could bear. Matilda's face contorted, a silent scream on her lips as she nearly fainted. "Don't blame me, Mother," Eleanor cooed, her eyes wide with a crazed sincerity. "Blame yourself for always preaching sacrifice but never paying the price. Now it's your turn. Don't you just love the feeling of protecting your precious grandson? Oh, you're such a good grandmother. You're crying tears of joy." Eleanor was losing her mind. The oppressive atmosphere of the Pierce household had finally broken her. She had never had an easy life here. As the mother of both the family's lucky star and their omen, she had chosen the easier path, the one that brought her praise. She had fled from her responsibility as Jax's mother. Of course, she loved her children. She had loved Jax fiercely when he was a baby. When Matilda, who was in charge then, had decreed that Eleanor could only breastfeed the lucky star Caleb, she had secretly pumped milk for Jax in the middle of the night, pretending it was formula. When Matilda bought toys only for Caleb, Eleanor had used her own dowry money to buy Jax the same things. In the beginning, Jax had known a mother's love. That was the source of the hopeful, longing looks he had given her after he returned. He had been loved once. Why, when he finally came home, did his mother act as if he didn't exist? He didn't understand, and he couldn't accept it. He had tried so hard to win her over, scraping together what little money a student could make to buy her a piece of jewelry she admired. He remembered presenting it to her. She had slapped it out of his hand, her voice dripping with contempt. "Did you steal my jewelry, sell it, and use the last of the money to buy me this piece of trash to try and win me over? Jackson, you disappoint me more than I can say. How could I have given birth to a thief? Did you gamble the money away? You know I despise gamblers. If killing weren't a crime, I would drown you myself. You are the most disgusting stain on my life." Her words had grown more and more vicious because she knew that no matter what she did, he wouldn't leave. He stood there, a solitary, defiant pine tree. "Mrs. Pierce, I didn't steal, and I didn't gamble." Slap. The force of the blow was stunning. "I don't want to hear your excuses. You're rotten to the core. You're beyond saving." After that, she had forbidden him from calling her mother. His denial was met with a slap that left a searing red mark on his cheek, and his pride shattered on the floor. All he had wanted was fairness, family, and trust. Why was it so hard? He had fled, hiding in the tiny rental apartment where he had once lived with his adoptive family, curled up in a ball, and cried. He had wept for the family that had abandoned him, for the simple, happy life he had lost. As he cried himself to sleep, he never noticed the pair of dark, obsessive eyes watching him from the window. Lily stood outside, clad in black. She glanced at Nathan, who dutifully puffed a sleeping agent through the window. Once Jax was unconscious, she slipped inside. "Jax, I wish I could take you with me now," she whispered, her body exhausted from running the Astor Empire. This was her only respite. "But I'm not strong enough yet. Just wait for me. Please, just wait a little longer." She lovingly traced the fading handprint on his cheek, then curled up beside him, her body fitting perfectly against his. "Poor baby, you were hurt. Let Lily kiss it and make it better." She leaned in, her cool skin brushing against his, her hand creeping toward his shirt. Suddenly, Jax's eyes snapped open, meeting her own greedy, possessive gaze. Lily's heart stopped. "Nathan, you're fired." Meeting Jax's eyes, Lily felt a confusing mix of exhilaration and panic. The desire to possess him, to consume him completely, surged to its peak. "Jax, Amel." Before she could finish, his eyes fluttered shut again, as if their sudden, intense connection had been a dream. She leaned closer, hooking a finger under his chin. "Jax, looks like the dose wasn't quite strong enough this time, but at least you got a good look at me. Worth it." She chuckled softly. Her life was a constant battle in the corporate world, and these stolen moments, drugging him just to be near him, were her only source of true relaxation. The thought of their next secret meeting was the only thing that got her through the grueling days. A person needed something to live for, and for a long, long time, Jax had been her everything. He didn't seem to remember her now, but she remembered him. She had remembered him for many, many years. In the present, Jax watched as Eleanor, driven mad, broke 4 of Matilda's fingers. The old woman was no match for her daughter-in-law's frenzied attack. For Eleanor, it was a catharsis, a release of decades of repressed anger. Her mother-in-law had made her life hell from the moment she married into the family, all because she had given birth to the omen, Jax. Matilda, a devout believer in superstition, had blamed every misfortune on the infant Jax, even beating him when he was still learning to walk. Back then, Eleanor had thrown herself over her son's body, taking the blows of the cane meant for him. She couldn't change her mother-in-law's superstitious nature, but she could try to be a shield. But after years of separation, after tasting the sweet praise that came with being the mother of the lucky star, she had forgotten her maternal instincts. She had chosen the easier path, denying her connection to Jax, blaming his flaws on his upbringing, insisting it had nothing to do with her. She had tried to educate him, to mold him, but her harsh words and unfair punishments had only pushed him further away. "Jackson, admit you're wrong. You wild child, why did I give birth to something so determined to be bad?" She had failed as a mother. Now, as she finished her brutal task, her eyes darted to Jax. He seemed to have completely detached himself. His gaze was foreign, alien. The bond of blood may have been unbreakable, but on a spiritual level, he had already severed all ties. He looked at the burning hall, at the chaos and pain of his family, and felt nothing. He had more important things to do. He turned and walked toward Lily. His eyes met hers, and in that moment, he knew he was her entire world. A wave of emotion, powerful and overwhelming, crashed through him. "Lily, let's go home," he said, his voice firm. "I'm taking you home." This house was never his home. Moonshadow Estate was. And the Jiang family home. He reached her side and, without giving her a chance to refuse, swept her up into his arms. Lily, accustomed to being the one in control, was momentarily surprised by the bridal style carry. But she loved the feeling of being held in his arms, the brief sense of safety and peace. She wrapped her arms around his neck, letting herself be carried away. The sharp, crimson stiletto on her foot swung gently, a small tell of the giddy happiness bubbling up inside her. In his arms, Lily Astor looked like a different woman, soft, pliant, and sweet. Nathan, trailing behind, thought, "Well, look at that. We're being force-fed dog food again." The other bodyguards were equally stunned. They had never seen their boss look so small and feminine. But they knew her obsession with Jax was all-consuming. As long as she was with him, nothing was surprising. As Jax carried Lily toward the exit, the Pierces didn't dare make a sound. They were just relieved he was finally leaving. They couldn't take any more of his madness. Sierra stood at the doorway, her eyes locked on them, but mostly on Jack's. She took a tentative step forward, then stopped. Fighting back tears of guilt, she pulled a cartoon SpongeBob Band-Aid from her purse. Jax, you're bleeding, she stammered, pointing to a small cut on his face. I'm not asking you to forgive me. Just, please don't hurt yourself. I used to get hurt all the time for my extreme sports, and you always had a Band-Aid ready for me with my favorite cartoon on it. Her voice broke. Jax, I remember all of it. I've been thinking about when things were still okay. Jax glanced at the childish Band-Aid. He had tried so hard to please his sisters, pouring all his energy and passion into winning their affection. He got nothing in return. Now that he had given up, they suddenly remembered his kindness. The irony was suffocating. He had no time for any of them. Lily's wound was all that mattered. Get out of the way, he said, his voice cold and sharp. A good dog doesn't block the path. The insult was a direct echo of words Sierra had thrown at him more than once. Now the tables had turned. She finally understood the humiliation of having her dignity trampled underfoot. Her lips trembled. She wanted to say more, but the words wouldn't come. Each step felt like it was weighted with lead. She couldn't move. Finally, she collapsed, squatting on the ground, her eyes lost as she watched Jax's retreating back. Guilt washed over her in a suffocating tide. I'm so sorry, she sobbed, her small body trembling. I'm so sorry, Jax. I was so wrong. I never should have hurt you. If I could, I would give my life to take away the pain we all caused you. She cried, a small, broken heap on the ground. Jax, will you ever look at me again? In my heart, you'll always be my little brother. Back at Moonshadow Estate, Jax drove them home himself. Though he had learned a great deal about medicine from his uncle, it was mostly traditional and focused on pharmacology. Lily's burn needed a specialist. Mr. Sterling rushed out to meet them, his face paling when he saw the bandages on Lily's hand and the thunderous expression on Jax's face. In contrast, Lily, the injured party, was beaming. Mr. Sterling sighed, swallowing the reprimand he wanted to give the young master, and immediately contacted Dr. Mandel. In the study, the wound was assessed. It wasn't severe, but that was only in comparison to the other scars that crisscrossed Lily's body, faint traces left behind even after treatment with the world's best medicines. Sam Cole arrived at top speed, delivering the custom burn salve Jax had requested. After Dr. Mandel gave his approval, Jax carefully began to redress Lily's hand himself. Lily, I'm so sorry. I'll let you get hurt. The guilt was eating him alive. He was a man. He was supposed to protect his woman, not the other way around. He still felt so useless to her. He had to get stronger, to become the tree that could shelter her from any storm. Jax, don't blame yourself, she said softly. Protecting you was my choice, and it made me happy. If you had been the one who was hurt, that would have made me want to destroy the world. I'm just glad I protected you. It's a small wound. It'll be better in a few days. She knew how fragile his heart was in this moment. But then she imagined their roles reversed, him being injured to protect her, and she knew she couldn't have accepted it either. If you really feel guilty, she said, a playful glint in her eye, how about you become my personal assistant for a while? She let him tend to her hand, not caring about the pain. She was using this opportunity to keep him close, even if it was just for a little while. Nathan, standing in the corner, thought, excuse me? Then what am I? Lily and Jax, in unison, your bad luck. Done. Jax agreed with a small smile. It would be my honor. The chance to stay by her side, to serve her, was all he wanted. The atmosphere in the room was warm and intimate. But Dr. Mandel was staring at Jax, his expression complex. He held the small container of burn salve, turning it over and over in his hand. Mr. Pierce, Dr. Mandel said suddenly, his voice filled with professional curiosity. May I be so bold as to ask where the formula for this salve comes from? The composition is a miracle of chemistry. The doctor who created this must be a genius. Would it be possible for you to introduce me? I would very much like to meet him. Nathan and Mr. Sterling both perked up. Dr. Mandel was at the pinnacle of his field, a leader in neurology and complex diseases, revered by professors around the world. For him to call another doctor a genius was the highest possible praise. Such a person would be a global authority, and the Astor family desperately needed a doctor who specialized in difficult cases. For all his skill, Dr. Mandel had only been able to manage Lily's condition, never cure it. The specialist abroad was their best hope, but the risks were enormous. To begin the treatment, Lily would have to sign a waiver acknowledging she might not survive. It was her only chance at a cure, but it could also kill her. That was one of the reasons Lily had been so hesitant. Besides her fear of Jax running away, she was terrified of dying on an operating table, losing her grip on him forever. So she waited, enduring each episode, hiding in the basement and carving in her own flesh with a small knife, using physical pain to override the screaming in her mind. The scars on her thighs and back were a secret testament to her suffering, hidden from Jax so he wouldn't worry. Everyone in Moonshadow Estate knew how much she had endured. They knew how precious this small bit of sweetness from Jax was, how much it made their hearts ache for her. Mr. Sterling was the first to move. He dropped to his knees before Jax. "Young master, I'm begging you. Please find that doctor. Please save our Miss Astor. She had suffered so much." Mr. Sterling's devotion to Lily was something even Nathan had to admire. Though the old butler often looked disheveled, his mind was as sharp as a diamond. He was the head butler Lily herself had personally saved and brought back to Moonshadow Estate. Having spent decades within the Astor dynasty, the things he knew in the depths of his cunning were an abyss. He simply chose not to speak of the past. If he were to overstep his bounds, he would admit that he truly loved and cared for Lily as if she were his own granddaughter. "I made this burn salve myself," Jax explained, his voice low. "After I returned to the Pierce family, I learned a lot about making remedies from my Uncle Ryan. But even before that, when I was with my adoptive parents, my mother was brilliant with pharmacology. I didn't realize it at the time, but as I learned more about the world, I understood I had a decent foundation in it. But Dr. Mandel, I've checked Lily's pulse myself, and I can't find the root of the problem. All I can tell is that her life force is severely depleted, like her body is on the verge of being hollowed out." Jax, more than anyone, wanted to find a cure for Lily. He wanted to eradicate her illness completely, but he was struggling. He'd thought that by being reborn, he could at least save her life, that they wouldn't have to relive the tragedy of their past life. But now, he felt utterly powerless against her illness. Dr. Mandel was astonished that Jax had made the salve himself. He looked at the young man with newfound admiration. "It's a strange, inherited family disease," he said gently. "From a traditional medicinal perspective, what you're sensing is both the root and the source. Ms. Astor's body is like an hourglass. Her health is the sand, trickling away, little by little. Once it's completely empty, she will." He didn't finish the sentence, but a heavy, crushing weight fell over everyone in the room. Jax couldn't bear to hear it. He refused to believe it. If something as impossible as reincarnation could happen to him, how could he not be able to save Lily? "Jax!" Lily's voice was a soft whisper. "It's okay. I still have 5 years." Her face was pale, but she reached out to stroke his head. He lowered it obediently, his heart a raging vortex threatening to pull him into an endless abyss. "I've known since I was a child that Astor women don't live past 25, she continued, her voice steady. "I've had a long time to get used to it. I'm not afraid. I'll find a way to live well. I told you, I'm going to spend many, many years with you." Dr. Mandel listened intently. "Mr. Pierce, from what you've said, your medical knowledge comes from 2 masters. I think, perhaps you should seek them out. It's possible that traditional medicine could be the miracle that cracks the code of Ms. Astor's illness." Dr. Mandel, though not American, was one of the earliest international authorities to advocate for the study and integration of traditional and alternative medicines. He held a deep respect for such practices and was a lifelong student. As a globally recognized physician, his pursuit of knowledge was relentless. "My uncle is teaching a medical survey course at Kingston University right now. I'll take Lily to visit him in person," Jack said. "As for my adoptive mother," he trailed off. He had searched for her for years with no success. Much of his skill had been nurtured by her. He no longer had a biological mother. In his heart, his adoptive mother held a far more important place. Still, he couldn't help the bitterness that rose in him. Why did the Zhang family send him away? Wasn't that a tacit admission that they didn't want him? Even so, Jax didn't hate them. He understood their struggles and their difficult choice. Reborn, he wanted to find them more than ever. He wanted to be a son, a proper brother, to return to the family that had once given him warmth and love. As Jack spoke, Lily's long lashes fluttered. She subtly lifted her arm. Nathan, noticing the gesture, stepped forward and bowed slightly to Jax. "Sir, I've found Mrs. Zhang's address. When Ms. Astor is feeling a bit better, she will accompany you to meet your former family." Nathan's words were carefully chosen, expressing Lily's respect for the Zhangs. If Jax considered them family, then Lily would too. She truly loved him and wanted to fulfill his every need, to mend all his regrets. "Really?" Jax's voice was thick with disbelief. He had asked Lily for help when he was at his wit's end, but he had expected it to be a dead end, just like in his past life. Then again, in his past life, he had been mired in the toxic swamp of the Pierce family, pushing Lily away, never able to ask her for something so personal. But now, the reach of the Astor dynasty was no small thing. If Lily wanted to find someone, no one could hide. Yes, Lily said softly. If you're anxious to see them, Jax, I can have Nathan take you to them first. She was learning. In her time with Jax, she had been trying to suppress her overwhelming possessiveness. After all, she might not live a full life. In the time she had left, she wanted to give him everything he desired. Since meeting Jax, she had wanted to become, in the most traditional sense, a good wife. No, I need to take care of you first, he said, his voice firm. Lily, you're always the number one priority in my world. Besides, when I see my father, mother, and sisters again, I need to bring the mistress of our house with me. It's the only way to show them proper respect. You've already introduced me to your family, Lily. This time, let me introduce you to mine. We're going to be one big, happy family. He squeezed her uninjured hand, his heart a turbulent sea of emotion, gratitude, vulnerability, and a complex, warming tenderness. Okay, Lily whispered, a soft, beautiful light blooming in her eyes. It turned out that when you were truly loved, when you were constantly shown that unwavering affection, it really did bring a sense of peace and gentleness. Dr. Mandel prescribed his medications and, for the time being, stayed at Moonshadow Estate as a live-in physician to help manage Lily's health. For a full week, Jax, in consultation with Dr. Mandel, prepared specialized medicinal cuisine tailored to Lily's condition. Dr. Mandel was in awe of Jax's abilities in both traditional medicine and pharmacology, and the two often spent hours discussing medical theory. During this time, Jax also carved out moments to manage the current state of JX Innovations. He had already established a mature operational structure for the company, entrusting most of the day-to-day affairs to Sam Cole and Sean Zhao. He had no time to manage the student government at Kingston University and had submitted his resignation. However, the university refused to accept it, stating they would hold the position of student body president for him and deal with any insubordinate members themselves. Jax had held the position for years and was reluctant to give it up. Since they were holding it for him, he agreed. He felt guilty that Sam was being ostracized because of him, so he put Sam in charge of JX Innovations' main operations. He asked Sean Zhao, who was already head of external relations, to keep an eye on the student government. Jax was never stingy with his friends. The salaries he offered were 10 times the market rate, plus bonuses, which kept both Sam and Sean highly motivated. Jax, man, I hate to bother you. Sam's voice crackled over the phone, full of stress. But Talia Croft is here. She's been sending gift baskets to the freaking CEO's office. You're not here, and you know this place is crawling with influencers. They're all whispering about you and her. I'm just worried if Lily finds out. You're going to be in the doghouse. Talia helped us out a lot back in the day, so I can't just kick her out. What do I do? Sam was in a bind. Just as he was struggling, a tall, impossibly elegant woman in a designer mask, carrying the latest limited edition handbag from a brand he couldn't even pronounce, walked into the lobby. Who? She asked, her voice like chilled silk. Is Talia Croft? Sam froze. Why do I suddenly smell smoke? Like from a crematorium? Sam was still on the phone with Jax when the woman's voice cut through the air. His face paled. On the other end of the line, Jax seemed to sense the shift in his friend's mood. Did my dear niece Isabel come looking for you? Sam. Isabel's a great girl. Wasn't she your goddess back in the day? Why are you getting cold feet now? Just a warning, Jax added, his tone more serious. The women of the Astor family, even from the branch lines, are not to be trifled with. They're all probably just as crazy. They don't fall for just anyone, but once they've decided you're theirs, there's no escape. Wasn't he the best example of that? But Sam was too deep in it to see clearly. He was just a normal guy who had stumbled into Isabel Croft's world. To her, he was probably just a novelty, a brief distraction. He could never be the kind of man for a woman as high and mighty as her. She was a top-tier star, arrogant, cool, yet elegant and tasteful. He was meant to admire her from afar, to catch glimpses of her in secret. That was enough. What Jax was saying was pure fantasy. Even if Isabel was the type to go crazy for a man, that man wouldn't be him. He was too ordinary. He shouldn't get any ideas. The call had ended. Sam looked up to see the graceful, impossibly noble Isabel Croft clicking toward him in her high heels. Her eyes immediately found Talia Croft, the so-called influencer who had come to repay a favor, sitting in the guest lounge. It was true that Talia had gained some traction online recently and had generated a decent amount of revenue for JX Innovations' new cosmetic line. But that was her job. It wasn't something that warranted a special thank you, though it was a perfect excuse to get a meeting with a high-powered CEO, an excuse Talia was clinging to for dear life. Talia was nervous. She'd had a crush on Jax for years, always finding subtle ways to be around him, even helping him find part-time jobs he needed. She came from a poor family, too. For a while, working side jobs with Jax was a daily routine, and they had grown close, even if it was just a working relationship. But Talia knew she had fallen hard. Then she found out he was working so desperately just to buy a designer bag for the campus queen, Chloe Vance. Suddenly, all their time working together felt like a joke. Her pride as an upperclassman kicked in, and she distanced herself from him. She never doubted her taste in men, but she wouldn't be the fool who treasured another woman's lapdog. It wasn't worth it, so she backed off. Now, she was back because she thought she had a chance again. Jax had been so in love with Chloe. There was no way he'd moved on so fast. He must have been forced into this arrangement by that rich woman. If she could just show him some understanding and care, surely his heart would waver. Jax, I know peaches are your favorite, Talia said into her phone, recording a voice message in the familiar, caring tone of a concerned upperclassman. I went to the orchard and picked the freshest ones myself. I'm in the reception area at JX Innovations. I hope you can come see me. I'll peel one for you myself. She sent the message, her heart pounding as she waited for a reply. But before she got one, the door to the lounge was pushed open. Ms. Croft, what a coincidence. Are you here to see my uncle? Talia was stunned. The A-list superstar she'd only ever seen on screen actually knew her name and was standing right in front of her. What? Isabel. Croft. Isabel's smile was as gentle as a spring breeze as she walked into the lounge and sat down next to Talia as if they were old friends. Yes, that's me. I'm also here to see Mr. Pierce. He's been so busy lately, wrapped around my aunt's little finger day and night. Hasn't had any time to manage his company. It's a classic case of beauty befuddling the brain, isn't it? Isabel struck a pose of mock regret, her elegant, coolly beautiful body settling next to Talia. Her stunning features completely overshadowed the influencer, making her feel plain and insignificant. Isabel knew her looks were a killer advantage in the entertainment world, but in high society, where the wives and daughters of the elite were all top-tier beauties, she was only a few points prettier. It wasn't a total blowout. In front of her Aunt Lily, however, even she felt like a dim star. And if a radiant jewel like herself was overshadowed, what chance did this little influencer have? Still, she had to admire the woman's audacity. To covet Aunt Lily's man. Just as Isabel had predicted, when she uttered the words beauty befuddling the brain, Talia's expression changed, darkening visibly. But Talia had been around the block, especially in the cutthroat world of online influencers. She understood Isabel's intentions immediately. This was a warning. Isabel, Talia said, her voice steady. Men like gentle, understanding women. It's not all about looks. What's more important is a partner who can truly understand his heart, who can share his pain. Jax and I, to be honest, we know each other better than anyone. A domineering woman might get his body, but she'll never have his heart. I know all of Jax's preferences and habits. Does she? That last sentence was a naked provocation. Outside, Sam, who was shamelessly eavesdropping, felt his scalp tingle. Oh, hell no. Talia, what are you doing provoking her? That's an Aster. The Aster women are ruthless. They could erase you in a heartbeat. But Talia had been kind to him and Jax when they had nothing. For a moment, Sam was torn. Oh, Isabel remained unfazed. The gentle curve of her smile didn't change, but a murderous intent began to crackle in the air. It felt as if, at any moment, her serene facade would tear away to reveal a bewitching, venomous seductress. Then please do tell. Well, my uncle's preferences and habits. Talia smiled smugly and began to ramble on, oblivious to the fact that Isabel had started recording on her phone. That's right, Isabel thought. Aunt Lily doesn't know him well enough yet. But here's a living encyclopedia, a free tutorial. Why waste it? Sam, realizing what Isabel was doing, was floored. You can cheat on your homework even when you're chasing a guy? And you're fired from JX Innovations, Isabel said calmly once Talia had finished. My aunt doesn't need to personally deal with someone of your caliber. Talia's face fell. What? Isabel, on what grounds? Isabel laughed lightly. On the grounds that I'm ruthless and powerful. Do you have a problem with that? Sam, show her guest out. After that, come to the CEO's office immediately. I have a few things I'd like to discuss with you. Sam's blood ran cold. Discuss what? Not the biological imperatives of the human species, right? Talia wanted to argue, but Sam quickly ushered her out. He knew as well as she did that Isabel Croft was a major power player, not someone a minor influencer could afford to cross. But feelings couldn't be measured in dollars and cents. To Talia, it was clear. The rich woman was holding Jax captive and preventing him from seeing her. That just proved she was a threat to their relationship. Didn't that mean Jax's heart had wavered for her? Otherwise, why would he give her this prime opportunity to promote his products? Deep down, he must still remember all the good she'd done for him. With that thought, Talia rose gracefully and followed Sam out. Isabel Croft might be a big shot in Hollywood, but this was JX Innovations. Jax was the CEO. Without his direct order, how could Isabel fire her? She wouldn't argue now. She simply left. Sam walked with her, wanting to say something, but holding his tongue. Talia had helped him and Jax so much in the past. Kicking her out felt like a betrayal. But if Lily found out about her and her obvious intentions toward Jax, that would be a catastrophe of epic proportions. Talia, Sam finally said, his voice firm but gentle. On behalf of JX Innovations, I have to formally terminate your contract. I'll have HR compensate you with 6 months' salary. You're a well-known influencer now. You have plenty of options. You don't need to be tied to a startup like ours. You could even start your own studio. You have the power to do that now. If you ever need help with ad collaborations or business events, Jax and I will be there for you. You helped us a lot, and we owe you that. But as for anything else, he thought, you need to drop it. Jax belongs to Lily. Anyone who covets him is finished. Sam, I know, Talia said softly, her voice filled with a tragic understanding. I know you and Jax are only doing this because of pressure from your investors. It's okay. My feelings for Jax have always been unconditional. Whether he wants them or not, I'll wait for him. That box of peaches is special. I picked them myself. Please make sure he gets them. Talia understood Sam's meaning perfectly, but she had already backed down once because of Chloe Vance. This time, she wouldn't deny her heart. Even if Jax lost everything and became poor again, she would still stand by him. They had similar childhoods. That alone was enough to convince her they were the most compatible people in the world. Okay, Talia, take care, Sam said, watching her go. He let out a long sigh. She was a good person, but he never thought she'd end up with a love-struck brain like he used to have. Some people just had to run head-first into a brick wall. Inside the CEO's office, Isabel Croft sat in the leather chair at the head of the room. She was a vision of refined elegance, like a proud plum blossom blooming in the snow. Her face was as radiant as morning dew on a flower, a perfect blend of purity and seduction. The two extremes merged seamlessly in her. If the Isabel he'd first met was a gentle southern belle, the one before him now was a rose with thorns, finally revealing her fiery side. Sam, you're back. As he stepped into the office, Isabel's gaze met his. Her eyes sparkled with a gentle light, and her pink lips curved into a smile. Her lithe body was slender where it should be and full where it mattered. She crossed her long legs, and the sight of her rooted Sam to the spot. Isabel, you wanted to see me? He stammered. Oh, right, about Talia. She and Jax are just old-school friends. Maybe she has feelings for him, but I swear, Jax is 100% devoted to Ms. Astor. You can rest assured of that. Sam was a mess. Ever since he learned about Isabel's interest in him, his first instinct was to run. She looked gentle, but he felt as if she could cast an invisible net at any moment and ensnare him completely. He felt like cornered prey, never knowing when the hunter would strike. The constant anxiety had forced all his attention onto her. He'd almost forgotten the emotional wreckage from his relationship with Kira, the despair, and the finality of their breakup. It felt like his thoughts were being pulled into Isabel's orbit, even as he tried to resist. She was, after all, completely unattainable. Isabel paid his words no mind. The fun of the hunt was in stalking the prey and watching it struggle helplessly before finally surrendering. The truth was, Isabel had never been in a real relationship. But she filmed so many movies and experienced so many on-screen romances. None of them had affected her as much as watching the love story unfolding right beside her, the love between her Aunt Lily and Jax. She had learned from the best. With Sam, she wouldn't make a move until she was ready. And once she moved, she wouldn't stop. Is that so? She purred. And what about you? Are you so quick to distance yourself from Talia because you're afraid I'll get the wrong idea? Isabel raised an eyebrow and beckoned to him with a single finger. A chill ran down Sam's spine, yet his body felt an uncontrollable urge to move toward her. She was just too captivating. He was sure no man she set her sights on could ever escape. Isabel, I didn't— Come here, she commanded, her voice now sharp and imperious, a stark contrast to her gentle image. Do I have to teach you? In that moment, Sam finally understood what Jax had meant. The Astor women were not to be trifled with. They were all insane. Gritting his teeth, Sam moved forward, subconsciously obeying her command. "Good boy," she cooed. "Sam, come closer. I want you to call me Isabel." "Okay." She stood up, her presence cold and imposing. She was dressed for the office, but in a way that was devastatingly alluring. A pencil skirt that hugged her curves, long legs sheathed in black silk, and a blouse with the top buttons undone. She stood before the desk, leaning forward and bracing her hands on its surface. Sam looked up, and his eyes went wide before he frantically looked away. It was too much. He shouldn't be seeing this. Isabel was being too careless. He wanted to say something, but when he turned back, he met her mischievous gaze. He finally got it. She was doing this on purpose. She was deliberately using her stunning figure to seduce him. "Oh my God. Sam, are you satisfied with what you see?" Isabel teased. "Why so quiet? What's the use of being shy? Since I've chosen you, you have a golden opportunity. Why not seize it?" She was deliberately playing with him. After all their time together, she could see that Sam was just a sweet, innocent guy. A woman like her, who moved so effortlessly through the world of fame and fortune, rarely encountered someone so pure. A little cleavage, and look at him, blushing to the roots of his hair. Isabel looked down and chuckled softly. If she tried something a little more intense, would he get nosebleed? "Isabel, we can't." "You're right, we can't," she purred. "That's why I think my aunt's methods for dealing with my uncle are the most effective." Click. Sam stared in disbelief at the handcuffs that were now securely fastened around his wrist. His brain felt like it was about to short-circuit. Wait, isn't this a scene straight out of Lily's playbook? Back at Moonshadow Estate, the new cosmetic products Jax had recently developed were, with Dr. Mandel's help, in the process of being patented. Launching and mass-producing them would require significant manpower, resources, and professional management. All things that Jax would normally have to oversee personally. But right now, his only focus was on caring for Lily, so he put all business matters on hold. Of course, Lily hadn't been idle. Even with her injured hand, there was a steady stream of international conference calls that required her leadership. Nathan was busier than ever, as any time Lily rested, his workload doubled. Fortunately, he was a seasoned veteran who had built the empire alongside her. Pierce Astor International wouldn't falter in a day. However, there was one event Jax had to attend, the upcoming Underground Street Race. He had to win it. He had to poach Yi Qian, the AI prodigy who, in his past life, had been snatched up by Skylar and taken overseas. Yi Qian was a racing fanatic. He had openly declared that anyone who wanted to hire him had to beat him on the track first. Many forward-thinking investors had already taken notice of him and were trying to find the best drivers to challenge him, all for the chance to bring the AI genius into their fold. Coming from the future, Jax knew better than anyone the critical importance of AI technology for the country and for his company. That night, Jax reported the matter to Lily. She was equally bullish on the AI industry, and her eyes shone with admiration and pride at his ambition and his remarkably prescient business acumen. "Jax, your foresight is incredible. Go for it. Once you break into that field, I'll put you in charge of all of Pierce Astor International's AI development projects." Her man would, in the end, stand on his own. Lily knew that Jax's world was vast. In the business arena, she would give him all the freedom he needed to innovate and conquer, and Jax was more than capable of living up to her faith in him. In the study, Lily was nestled on a soft sofa, her bandaged hand resting on a cushion. Her long legs were unabashedly propped on Jax's lap as he bent over, patiently and gently massaging them. The silky, smooth texture of her skin was intoxicating, and he couldn't get enough. For a moment, it was unclear who was getting the better end of the deal in this passionate massage. "Jax, my hand is fine now," she murmured. "And that scar cream you made is amazing. It looks like it won't even leave a mark. Can I go back to the office?" Both Lily and Jax were workaholics. But while Jax was driven, his first priority was always Lily. He frowned slightly, disapproving. "Lily, you need to rest more. The company has Nathan and Mr. Sterling. If you can't even focus on healing, how will you get better quickly? Be good. If you're really that bored at home, I could take you out to have some fun." Work was too draining. Jax had limited Lily to a fixed time for handling business each day. The rest of the time, they were shamelessly glued to each other. Lily reveled in this state of mutual dependence, of being constantly intertwined. She especially loved how Jax would bossily manage her daily routine and spend so much time with her. Wasn't this everything she had ever dreamed of? She only said she wanted to go to the office to see his pouty, concerned expression. She loved it so much. "Where would we go?" she purred. "Jax, we haven't done it in so long." She shifted, her voice turning into a sultry whisper as she rubbed against him. It's my hand that's injured, not anywhere important. Will you give yourself to me? A week, a full 7 days. Because of her injury and her weakened state, every night Jax had to restrain her other restless hand while she could only stare at him, practically drooling. Lilybug, your body is too weak. I'm afraid you can't handle it. Your health comes first, okay? To be honest, Jax was starving. A week of celibacy for a man who was used to holding a warm, fragrant treasure in his arms every night was pure torture. But Lily really did need to rein in her addiction. In the past, she had been reckless, dragging him into a dark room to devour him anytime, anywhere. The frequency was insane. Forget whether Lily's body could take it. Just thinking about it made Jax feel like he was being drained dry. No, it's not okay, she countered, her eyes glinting with a mischievous, bewitching light. Not unless you grant me one condition tonight. Well, what condition? Lily hooked a finger into the collar of his shirt, her voice a breathy whisper in his ear. Tonight, Jax, you'll wear a butler's uniform for me. And cat ears. Her slender, beautiful legs snaked around his waist, coiling around him like a python, locking him firmly in her territory. Of course, you can refuse, she added, her tone dangerously sweet as she leaned in and gently bit his earlobe. The unique fragrance of her breath was enough to make the already famished Jax stand at full attention. But if I don't get the performance I want, I'll be very sad. Her voice grew colder. And if I'm sad, I might just have to look into why Talia Croft was delivering peaches to you at JX Innovations. You know, I really hate it when other people covet what's mine. The seemingly intimate gesture was now fraught with peril. Jax froze. SOS. It's over. I have no choice. I'm wearing the damn butler uniform. Lily, what color butler uniform do you like? I'll go put it on and serve you right now. Jax was now a firm believer in the principle of he who understands the times is a wise man. In front of his queen, his job was to coax her, spoil her, and keep her happy. This had nothing to do with being afraid of her anger, of course. Lily smiled nonchalantly, but deep down, she was a little hurt. The complete guide to Jax's likes and habits that Isabel had sent her contained so many things she didn't know. She regretted not having entered his life sooner. What he liked to eat, his favorite cartoon characters, his favorite colors. She was clueless about all the things she should have known. She had only ever known how to take, how to possess. She had explored his body exhaustively, but had done very little to explore his mind. Black and white, she decided. You have a great body, Jax. You'll look amazing in it. She stood up and led him back to the master bedroom, a space she had personally redesigned to welcome him. The enormous room was covered in a soft carpet, so that even if they did something on the floor, it wouldn't be uncomfortable for her. Of course, Jax was usually too shy to do anything too outrageous. But Lily was different. She loved to seek out thrills. Gradually, Jax had become more and more open, and now, he was often the one who was insatiable. In the bedroom, Lily gestured for Jax to open an inconspicuous inner cabinet in the walk-in closet. Inside, an astonishing array of role-playing costumes was revealed, an entire rack filled with custom-made outfits tailored to Jax's physique. There was every type imaginable: a doctor's coat, a captain's uniform, a lawyer's suit, a teacher's outfit, a butler's uniform. The sight left Jax dizzy. Jax, I had all these made for you before on my own initiative. I'm sorry, she said, her voice soft as she slowly approached him with her long strides. I love you too much. I wanted to possess you in every professional form. Does that scare you? The walk-in closet was an enclosed space. Jax took a step back, but found his back against the wall. There was no retreat. It wasn't that he couldn't accept it. It was just a little too stimulating. The thrills his sick, beautiful queen sought were truly beyond what any ordinary person could provide. And Jax had to admit, he was no ordinary person. Whatever she wanted, he had the means to satisfy her. No, it doesn't, he said, his voice a little rough. Whatever kind of Jax you like, I'll play that part for you. Right now, you're the lady of the house, and I'm the butler. My lady can command her sire. The last word was too outrageous. But for some reason, even as he humbled himself to please her, seeing her eyes light up with excitement gave him a strange sense of accomplishment. It made him want to become whatever she desired, to be molded into any shape she wished. In essence, it was just another expression of his love for her. As expected, Lily's eyes lit up. She ran her fingers through his short hair and leaned in, her voice a husky whisper in his ear. Jax, don't forget to wear the collar. I'll be waiting for you outside. Watching his obedient, almost fawning demeanor, Lily glanced at her own closet next door. I I think I'll give him a surprise of my own. At the Pierce family estate, a week had passed. The ancestral hall had been reduced to a pile of ash. Nothing remained. The day of the fire had been hell for the entire family. Matilda Pierce, whose fingers had been broken by her own daughter-in-law, had been rushed to the hospital and had been unconscious ever since. The dual shock, the destruction of the hall, and the physical trauma was immense. It was a miracle she was still clinging to life. The rest of the family wasn't faring much better. Overnight, Sierra Pierce, the youngest sister besides the two sons, saw her hair turn completely white. She was like a puppet with its strings cut, huddled in her room, refusing to come out. Morgan, the eldest, had called the fire department, and then, after Jax and his crew left, had simply walked away from the family home. Skylar, the only sister with any fight left in her, couldn't understand how one act of madness from Jax could bring their harmonious family to the brink of annihilation. Jax was detestable. He had dared to injure their father. If she wasn't so afraid of provoking the Astor dynasty, she would have made him pay. Fortunately, that monster of a woman, as powerful as she was, wouldn't live for more than a few years. Once she was dead, Skylar would deal with her traitorous little brother. For now, she spent her days at the hospital, where the family had rented an entire floor for their father, mother, and grandmother. Trent, why are you calling me? Skylar was already overwhelmed with family matters and had little time for business. Skylar, Trent Crawford's voice was firm, displaying none of the deference he showed Lily. I have high hopes for you. I signed you for a fortune specifically for this underground race in this country. The main event is in 2 days. I've heard about your family troubles. Lily is letting that boy toy Jax run wild and making you suffer. I've already sent people to take care of your parents, but you need to get your head back in the game. You know this race determines your entire future. As long as JX Innovations hadn't fully risen, Trent still had a chance to crush it. He wouldn't let that opportunity go. And Jax, why did that punk have to win Lily Astor's favor? He still couldn't accept it. Don't worry, Trent, Skylar said, her voice cold. Jax may be my brother, but he has completely broken with our family. He's put my parents' lives in danger and driven my mother to despair. He's a curse on us. If I don't teach him a lesson, I won't be able to live with myself. She hung up and immediately dialed another number. Leo, has my car, the Predator, been flown back yet? Good. Take it to the warehouse. Leave the key in my office. I'm coming by to test it tonight. A car flown in from overseas couldn't be raced immediately. It needed to be tuned and adapted by the driver. As she spoke, Skylar remembered how perfectly Caleb had modified her car before. It had felt like an extension of her own body. She called Caleb and told him to meet her. That evening, just as she was getting acquainted with her car again, her assistant called and told her to check the underground racing forums. Skylar, buzzing with excitement to get behind the wheel, reluctantly opened the forum on her phone. Rumor has it the former king of the track, the Ghost, is making a comeback. This race is about to get interesting. The Ghost got banned for 2 years right after he hit the scene. 2 years are up, and he's back at just 20. A total prodigy. Man, that name The Ghost sounds so familiar. Can't place it. I thought the racing queen Skylar Pierce was a shoo-in to win her homecoming race and hit the next milestone in her career, but now she might be about to lose her crown. The Ghost holds the record for that cliff jump maneuver. He was the youngest ever to be crowned king. I'm betting all my money on him. It's a sure thing. Skylar scrolled through the comments. Even some users with her fan logos in their profiles were already switching sides. She knew it was inevitable. The Ghost had been practically unbeatable in his prime. He was known as the god of Autumn Mountain Speedway. The story was he'd only started racing to make some quick cash, but you can't hide that kind of talent. He had effortlessly humbled industry veterans. If he hadn't been disqualified for doping, many current international racers might never have gotten their chance. Thinking of this, Skylar finally felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach. Thankfully, she still had Caleb. Caleb, this race is critical for me. It's in 2 days. I need you to tune and modify the Predator for me again. I know what you're capable of, whether I win or lose. It's all on your shoulders now. Skylar patted his shoulder, trying to calm herself. Caleb looked at the car keys in his hand, feeling a complete lack of confidence. He wasn't the one who had modified her car before. How was he supposed to do it now? Then, as his mind raced, he saw the forum discussion on his sister's phone. The Ghost? What right does he have to come back? An idea formed. If the Ghost couldn't return to threaten Skylar's position, then even if he couldn't improve the car, he could probably hide any issues, right? Caleb's mind spun. When he saw Skylar looking at him expectantly, he nodded with firm resolve. Don't worry, sis. Your driving and my modifications have always been a perfect match, right? Don't be afraid of this Ghost character. He hasn't competed in a real race in 2 years. We don't know what he's really capable of. We can't underestimate ourselves. Besides, he was disqualified for a reason. He's reckless. Who knows if he'll try to cheat again? We should be careful. His words had the intended effect, calming Skylar and lowering her guard against the ghost. You're right. You always know what to say, Caleb, she said, relieved. With all the trouble at home, you must be exhausted and stressed, and you're still putting up with so much. Here's 300,000. It's just a little something from me. Take it. You always work so hard on my car. It's a shame we couldn't give you a better future. This is the least I can do. Skylar handed him the money as she usually did. In the past, when he was younger, she'd only given him 100,000 or 200,000. But with the family in crisis, she felt a surge of pity for her hard-working brother and gave him more. Caleb feigned reluctance before unwillingly accepting his sister's kindness. I'm just doing my part for the family, sis, he said with a sigh. It's Jax. I just don't know when he'll get over his misunderstanding of our family. I really just want him to come home so we can all be a family again. At the mention of Jax, Skylar's skin crawled with a mixture of disgust and fear. That brother of hers, propped up by the Astors, had lost his mind. He was a maniac. She had no interest in him repenting and coming home. As long as he didn't cause any more trouble, didn't blow up any more houses, that would be enough. Enough, Caleb. I know you have a good heart. You're nothing like that petty, monstrous brat, she snapped. But we're better off not provoking a psycho like Jax. Don't even think about him coming home. It would be best if he just died out there. The Pierce family has no place for him. After everything that had happened since her return, Skylar understood one thing. The current Jax was not someone they could afford to offend. But sis, Caleb's expression darkened. What are we going to tell Grandpa? With everything that's happened, are we really going to keep it from him? Richard Pierce had been the staunchest advocate for bringing Jax back to the family and had always been incredibly good to him. He was supposed to be Jax's strongest pillar of support. At least, that's how everyone saw it. As for whether he had actually protected Jax, perhaps only Jax himself knew the truth. We'll keep it from him for now, Skylar said, her head aching. The priority was the race and getting control of the AI genius, Yi Qian, in the Zhang's home. Mom, where did you run off to? Chelsea Zhang's voice was laced with concern. Even though he lived in the city for years, it's changed so much in just 4 years. What if he got lost? Here, drink your medicine. As for Jax, my sister already found out through Professor Roth that he's doing well now. Maybe it's better for him if we don't show up. The next moment, Mrs. Zhang's eyes filled with tears. Chelsea, I know, she sobbed, but I miss him. I miss my boy so much. You don't know, Mrs. Zhang wept. Clutching a piece of Jax's old clothing, she had mended herself. Jax never had a mother's love. When he first came to us, he was so wary, even though his health was poor. He was a child who had never known affection. So he cherished his place in our family. I regret it, Chelsea. I regret sending him away. I thought I was doing what was best for him, because Richard Pierce swore he would protect him, that Jax would inherit the Pierce fortune. I was so wrong. So terribly wrong. All these years, he must have hated me. Back then, the Zhang family had fallen on hard times. Her husband had been diagnosed with a serious illness, and the family's sole breadwinner was collapsing. There was no way she could support a family of 6 on her own. She had raised Jax. She knew the boy she'd found better than anyone. He would have sacrificed everything to support their little family. A family of strangers with no blood ties, a burden he never should have had to bear. She couldn't bear to crush him under that weight, especially after learning his real name was Jax Pierce, and that he was supposed to have been a young master living a life of luxury. It felt wrong to drag him down with them. By then, her 2 eldest daughters, Hannah and Chelsea, had already been forced to drop out of school and enter the workforce. Life for a poor family was a relentless grind. The 2 girls were beautiful, and when they went out to work, they were inevitably subjected to slander and lewd gossip that made its way back to the family. Every time, Jax would grab a wooden stick and go looking for the punks who spread the rumors, often coming home with bruises on his face. Mrs. Jiang knew that even though he wasn't her biological son, Jax was her son in every way that mattered. He was one of them. But that only made it harder. When she learned the truth, she was even more determined not to pull him into the bottomless pit of their family struggles. Mom, there's $100 million in this account. It was an earlier memory when her eldest daughter, Hannah, had discovered the bank card Mrs. Jiang showed her. With this money, Dad can be saved. Our whole family could be set for life. We'd never have to live in this cramped alley again, never be looked down on. Mrs. Jiang's heart had been pounding with fear. Mom, where did this money come from? Hannah had asked, bewildered. You couldn't get this much money if you sold all of us. Is this some kind of scam? But who would be stupid enough to try and scam us? The shabbiness of their home hardly screamed wealthy. A young woman gave it to me, Mrs. Jiang had explained. A beautiful young woman. She used this card to buy Jax for me. I think his real family must have found him. His status is clearly extraordinary. He's grown up now. Even if his birth parents came for him, it's time I let him go. Mrs. Jiang had never seen so much money in her life. $100 million was an astronomical sum she couldn't even comprehend. But she understood one thing. This money belonged to Jax. She wouldn't touch a cent of it. She had always taught her children not to covet what wasn't theirs, that everything they got should be earned with their own hands. She was an uneducated woman with a narrow view of the world. But as a mother, she knew how to love her children. Jax was grown now. The most important thing was to respect him, not to take what was his. Mom, that's $100 million, Hannah had whispered. We could just take a little bit. Even a few thousand would help Dad so much. She was stunned. What kind of family did Jax come from that someone would offer $100 million to get him back? The sum also carried a terrifying message. With such a vast gap in wealth, if they refused, the other party could crush them with a flick of a wrist. The fact they were willing to use money meant they valued Jax immensely. Mrs. Jiang, a mother herself, understood the pain of losing a child. We'll find another way to help your father. This money belongs to Jax. We can't touch it. The warmth and love he brought to our family over the years is enough. We are not a family that sells its children. If his family can give him a better, more complete home, then we should disappear from his world. She had principle. She trusted her daughters. She handed the card to Hannah. You hold on to this. Shortly after, the Pierce family formally arrived. Richard Pierce offered them another card, this one with $10,000 and a story. You can rest assured, he'd said, his tone that of a benevolent patriarch. I am his biological father. I will give him the best education, the best resources. I will raise him to be the finest heir to our corporation. He'd left out the part about having other sons and grandsons, painting Jax as the sole heir. How could the Jiangs, in good conscience, keep a family's only hope? It was morally indefensible. Mr. Pierce, Mrs. Jiang had replied, standing her ground. I found Jax, it's true, but I have raised him as my own son all these years. You don't need to pay us such a high price to claim him. The Jiang family does not sell its children. Whether he stays or goes should be his choice. Mrs. Jiang, perhaps you should look at this report first, Richard said, his tone shifting. Our family has a specific genetic condition. It's a deficiency from his time in the womb. I imagine he had related complications as a child. They weren't severe then, but he's older now. Without systematic treatment, the consequences could be terrible. As his father, I have never given up searching for him, precisely so I could bring him home and heal him. I don't have much time left. I can't bear the thought of my son facing a sudden illness without the best medical care. You know your family's circumstances. If something were to happen to Jax, it would be a disaster you couldn't recover from. I can help you change all that. I will take care of your husband's medical bills. This $10,000 is just a deposit. In the end, faced with Richard's combination of reason and emotional blackmail, Mrs. Jiang had tearfully agreed to give up Jax. You've given us more than enough, she'd said, assuming the first, larger sum had also come from him. Even if our family spent it for a lifetime, we couldn't use it all. But that money can't buy our love for Jax. Richard had merely grunted in agreement, a flicker of suspicion in his eyes. $10,000 is a lifetime of money? He'd been prepared for them to ask for $500,000. TSK, a family of sewer rats who've never seen the world. Of course, I have one more condition, he'd added, his arrogance showing. I need your entire family to move out of the city. Jax is a sentimental boy. If you're here, his birth parents won't be able to accept him having contact with you. After all, they're his real parents. It would break his mother's heart to see his loyalties divided. You're a mother. Surely you understand. This time, Mrs. Jiang's voice was cold. Mr. Pierce, our family may be poor, but we are not without dignity. We will leave when Jax no longer needs us. But if he ever does need us, we will come back. And do not try to deceive us. We may be poor, but I am a mother. Never underestimate what a mother will do for her child. And so, the Jiang family disappeared from Jax's world. Back in the present, at Moonshadow Estate, Jax lay in bed, watching the Queen sleeping soundly in the crook of his arm, a look of deep satisfaction on his face. Her wildness was more than most could handle, but he was used to her rhythm now, and it served her well. Lily, our future is only going to get better, so you have to be okay, he whispered, gazing at her face, unadorned by makeup, soft and pink like the most beautiful porcelain. Lately, he had been desperately searching for a solution to her condition, but had found nothing. Every time he checked her pulse, he found no discernible problem. Yet her life force felt like it was constantly draining away. He knew that the most stubborn illnesses were the ones with no identifiable cause. We have a whole lifetime to spend together. A deep fear gripped him. Since his rebirth, he had rarely been afraid. But now, the possibility of losing Lily terrified him. While she slept, he slipped out of bed, put on a robe, and dialed his Uncle Ryan's number. He needed more information about Lily's condition. But this time, the call wouldn't connect. Puzzled, he decided to try again the next day. His contact list was pitifully short, mostly work numbers. But he still had the numbers for the Jiang family. He had them all memorized. Though he'd never been able to get through, he knew they wouldn't have changed them. They would have kept the old numbers active. For him, he'd never doubted their love. He'd just been blinded by the Pierce family, thinking he had to earn the affection that should have been his by right. As he stared at his phone, the screen suddenly lit up. A number he knew by heart was calling him. For a second, he thought he was hallucinating. He fumbled to answer, his voice hoarse and low, trying to suppress the wave of emotion that threatened to overwhelm him. Hello. He sounded like a lost child, a ship without a harbor, finally seeing a welcoming shore. Jax? It's Mom. Mrs. Jiang's voice was hesitant. Can I see you? She knew now. Through her daughters and the news, she had slowly pieced together the truth. Her Jax had suffered in the Pierce household. His birth mother didn't love him. The Pierces had another son, a weaker one. He was the one with the genetic illness. It had all been a lie, a scheme to drive them away from their boy. Mom. Jax's nose stung with unshed tears. Mom, you finally want me back. He had never been loved by his own mother, and all the pain he'd endured with the Pierces he had buried deep inside. But in front of his real family, he could finally let it all out. Lily, who had woken up at some point, came up behind him and gently patted his back. Jax, I'm feeling better now. Don't let your fear hold you back anymore, okay? As soon as the sun comes up, I'll go with you to see her. And she thought they would also deal with the puppet master hiding behind the Pierce family, Richard Pierce. He almost never showed his face, but he was the source of all this tragedy. What worried her was that it had taken all her resources to find the Jiangs. Either Richard Pierce had some staggering secret power behind him, or the Jiang family, who appeared so poor and downtrodden, were not as simple as they seemed. Jax, of course, accepted Lily's proposal. He had been thinking about seeing his adoptive parents for days. Had they been well these past 4 years? He, their ungrateful son, hadn't been there for them, and now he was hesitant to even see them. His mother would be so sad if she knew. Jax knew why he was afraid. He was afraid of being abandoned again, just like when he was a child, standing next to Caleb, waiting to see which of them the Pierce family would discard like a useless object. He was afraid that his return would be an intrusion into the ordinary, peaceful lives of the Jiang family. He had been thrown away so many times that the fear had become a demon in his heart. Thank God for Lily. Her presence was, in its own way, healing him. She made him feel that even a stray like him, unwanted and unloved, could be held in the palm of someone's hand, could be their most cherished treasure. Jax, can I still call you that? Mrs. Jiang's voice trembled on the other end of the line. Is that your wife speaking? You'll really come see me in the morning? Oh, listen to me, my head is all fuzzy. I'll wait for you to come home. Don't eat breakfast. I'll make dumplings for you in the morning. Your favorite kind. I make them all the time, just in case my boy is out there having a tough time and suddenly gets a craving. I promise, they'll taste just like you remember. Oh, and does your new wife have any allergies? This is the first breakfast I'll be making for her. It has to be perfect. Mrs. Jiang was a simple, warm-hearted woman. She was overjoyed that Jax had found a wife. As for the nasty rumors the outside world spread about her new daughter-in-law, she paid them no mind. If her son had chosen her, then she was a Jiang now, and the Jiangs never looked down on any of their children. Back when Jax was with them, their life had been just like that. Even though he was a foundling and his medical treatments cost a fortune, her husband, Richard Jiang, had stood firm against all the relatives and neighbors who told them to just throw the boy away. Jax isn't an object you can just discard, he had declared. He's a person. He's my son, and I'll spend every penny I have to save him. People had laughed at him, saying he was only doing it because he had 3 daughters and no sons. Jax had heard those cruel words his whole childhood, but his mother would just gently stroke his head and say, "Silly boy, you may not have come from my body, but you are a treasure sent to me from heaven. Your father and I, we just want to see you grow up safe and healthy. That's all." It was the only time in his life Jax had ever felt completely enveloped in the warmth of a family's love. Thinking back, those impoverished days didn't feel bitter at all. They were like cool, sweet water drawn from an old well on a hot summer day. His two older sisters had never excluded him either. That tiny, cramped house held so many of his warmest childhood memories. The next morning, the couple woke in each other's arms. They told the kitchen staff not to prepare breakfast. They were eating out. Lily, getting ready, was uncharacteristically nervous. Her beauty was innate. She was stunning in anything she wore. But today, the powerful woman who could command boardrooms and manipulate markets was nervous about meeting a simple, working-class family. It was almost laughable. In the end, she chose a tasteful, elegant beige dress that was well-tailored and highlighted her confident, powerful aura. She paired it with a discreet set of pearl earrings. Of course, Lily's idea of discreet was still a world apart from anyone else's. She was sitting at her vanity, touching up her already perfect eyebrows, when Jax came to stand behind her. He was dressed in his usual relaxed, casual attire. When he wasn't working, he rarely wore a suit. Being a suit in front of Lily always gave him a strange sense of shame, as if at any moment she would call him in her office, swing a silk-stockinged leg over his lap, and toy with the tie she had so carefully chosen for him that morning. And if she really wanted to see him flustered, she would slowly undo it, command him to offer up his hands, and bind them willingly for her, to do with as she pleased. Right now, though, he was just waiting patiently for her to finish her makeup. He made a quick call to Sam, telling him to come with them if he had time. Sam's voice exploded over the phone. Go home? Aren't you already home? Don't tell me you still think of that flesh-eating demon pit the Pierces call a home as your house. What did you blow it up for then? Jax ignored his friend's tirade. The Jiang's house, he said, his voice full of unconcealed pride. My home. Jax Pierce had a home. He wasn't some unwanted stray after all. That got Sam's attention. He immediately agreed to come. He'd missed Mrs. Jiang's dumplings for years. His mood lifted. Jax leaned over Lily from behind, his arms gently circling her waist. Lily, you're so good to me, he murmured. Let me do your eyebrows for you. It was an old custom for a new husband to draw his wife's eyebrows, a symbol of mutual respect. And today, the first time he was taking his wife to meet his mother, was just as significant. Lily's nervousness and the care she was taking made it clear to Jax that it was all because she placed him at the very center of her world. Because her love was so deep, everything concerning him was precious to her. Lily nodded. Anything Jax wanted to do for her, she would welcome with open arms. She loved his closeness, loved the way he cherished her. Of course, she also loved the way he looked when he lost control, his eyes red as he begged for her affection. Jax sat down beside her. He had no real makeup skills, so he just took the eyebrow pencil and carefully traced the perfect shape of her brows. Lily, what do you think? He asked, his touch gentle. This is my first time doing this for a girl. If you don't like it, we can wipe it off. He knew a lot about girls, having grown up with his sisters and then try to please the 5 Pierce sisters. But this was the first time he'd actually done himself. It's perfect, Lily said, her praise genuine. You're amazing, Jax. You're good at everything you do. When Lily was ready, they went outside. Nathan had already prepared a mountain of gifts, so much that it looked like they would need a moving truck to transport it all. Of course, for Moonshadow Estate, it was a drop in the ocean. Ms. Astor, everything is ready, Nathan reported. The gift list you personally prepared is all here. The only thing missing is the emerald necklace for Mrs. Jiang, which was on loan to a jewelry exhibition in Germany and has not yet been returned. It will take a little more time. However, I've arranged for a private jet to retrieve it. In the meantime, I have prepared 2 emerald necklaces of identical quality, along with a matching pair of bracelets as an alternative. The Astor dynasty rarely gave gifts. They were usually the ones receiving them. For Lily to personally select presents for a visit was unheard of. The staff, who had been up since dawn helping, were baffled. But when they learned they were going to Jax's family home, it all made sense. For years, the only person who could make their queen bend was him. Well done, Lily said, her mood bright. 10% bonus for everyone at Moonshadow at the end of the year. Jax frowned. He felt this was too much, too ostentatious. He was afraid of scaring Mrs. Jiang. But seeing how much care Lily had put into preparing everything, how much importance she placed on this, he couldn't bring himself to refuse her kindness. Lily, let me handle this, he said softly. Don't wear yourself out. And don't be so nervous. You're just meeting my mother. She's very easy to talk to, and she'll definitely love you. His attempt to comfort her only made her heart flutter more. But Jax, my reputation isn't exactly good. She wasn't a woman who wore her emotions on her sleeve, but when it came to him, she felt as fragile as an eggshell, always wanting to do everything perfectly. It all came from how much she cared. What if your mom thinks I forced you to be with me? Her pouting expression was so endearing that Jax's heart melted. It was his fault. He'd been so caught up in the excitement of reuniting with his parents that he hadn't considered Lily's feelings. He held back a laugh and pulled her into a firm embrace. Uffed. He chuckled in her hair. Lily, if you show up in my old neighborhood with a procession like this, even if I swore I was with you willingly, my mom would probably think I was a pretty boy you kidnapped. He was joking, but it made Lily realize he had a point. But Jax, this gift list is already less than half of what I originally planned. I was trying not to scare her. Lily didn't feel the need to call her auntie or Mrs. Jiang, if Jax recognized them as family, so did she. She didn't do polite formalities. Anyone lucky enough to be considered family by her should be grateful. All right, my queen, I know, he said, his voice full of affection. I don't want to be low-key either. You're my wife. I want to shout it from the rooftops. Besides, he added, gently tapping the tip of her nose with his finger, it's tradition for the new bride to meet the in-laws, right? He leaned in and peppered her face with kisses. His queen. She was just too lovable. Oomph. Who are you calling new bride? She retorted, arching an eyebrow in a perfect imitation of a proud, playful kitten. Jax just kissed her again. I'm the ugly one. The ugliest. But I somehow managed to marry a goddess, a living angel like you. Mr. Sterling and Nathan watched from the side, their faces grim. Ugh, the sickeningly sweet smell of love. They definitely weren't jealous. Not at all. The Jiangs rented a small house with a courtyard. The place was old but tidy and bright. It was located in a remote suburb on the outskirts of the city, one of New York's poorer neighborhoods. The houses were crowded together, but transportation to the city center was decent enough for the many residents who commuted to work. When the Astor motorcade arrived in the area, it caused quite a stir. Was this where the young master really came from? Well, they were set for life now. With a son-in-law favored by the queen herself, their future was secure. Jax knew the narrow streets were impassable for cars. He had the driver's wait and carefully helped Lily out of the vehicle. Lily, I'm sorry you have to put up with this. His own heart was in turmoil. His parents had not been living well. Now that he had some success, he was determined to give them the best of everything. Jax, I'm not putting up with anything, Lily said, her voice soft and sincere. As long as a family is together, they can be happy anywhere. She had grown so much since being with him. The sharp, clawing edges of her personality had been smoothed by his constant, selfless devotion. Here, in this humble place, the air felt clean, the atmosphere peaceful. She had survived far worse. Lily, don't worry, he said, pulling her close and pressing a kiss to her forehead. My parents will love you, just as much as I do. Inside the Jiang small courtyard, Mrs. Jiang bustled around the kitchen. Honey, I saw on the news that our Jax married a high society lady. She must be used to fancy food. It's a good thing I started raising my own chickens. You know how picky Jax is, he can always taste the difference. She kneaded dough for dumplings while instructing her husband to boil a bowl of sweet egg soup for their new daughter-in-law. It was a tradition from their hometown for the first visit. The in-laws had to personally prepare it to warm the bride's stomach, a sign of welcome and blessing. It was a crisp autumn morning. Their breath plumed in the cold air, mingling with the steam rising from the pots in the kitchen, creating a scene of cozy, domestic warmth. On such a happy day, the eldest daughter, Hannah, was not home. Only the old couple in Chelsea, who happened to be between jobs, were there. The youngest, Violet, had refused to take a day off from school when she heard her brother was coming home. Her parents knew she was in a rebellious phase and didn't press the issue. A lengthy flashback revealed the sister's story. After they had given Jax up, they hadn't been idle. Chelsea had demanded that Richard Pierce fund her education at MIT. Hannah had demanded entry into a top-secret, elite research fellowship. They were determined to become powerful enough to one day bring their brother home. But it was Violet, the youngest, who was most heartbroken. One day, she had secretly saved up for a train ticket and traveled to Kingston University, the school Jax had always talked about attending. Hiding her distinctive white hair under a hat, she finally saw him. But he was no longer the brave, cheerful brother she remembered. He was trailing after a beautiful girl, one of the Pierce sisters, acting like her servant. Violet watched in horror as the girl, Skylar, disdainfully took a handmade charm he offered her, threw it on the ground, and crushed it under her heel. In that moment, Violet's heart shattered. The brother she had so admired was gone, replaced by someone else's doormat. At home, he had been their treasure. She crouched down after they left and picked up the broken pieces. He had promised to buy her a huge fish tank for her 15th birthday, big enough to hold all the most beautiful fish in the world. But he seemed to have forgotten everything. He had never come looking for her. Sobbing, Violet called her parents from a payphone, telling them she had found her brother, but he wasn't her brother anymore. After that, her father, now mostly recovered from his illness, had quietly moved with his wife back to the city, renting the small courtyard house. Their daughters were successful now. Chelsea had returned from the U.S. and was ready to buy them a villa. But the old couple was used to a simple life and refused, telling their daughters not to spend their hard-earned money on them. What no one knew, not even her family, was that Chelsea had returned to take over a failing company, Pierce Financial, the very firm that had been run into the ground by the eldest Pierce sister, Morgan. She had taken the helm under her own name, Chelsea Jiang, determined to let her skills speak for themselves as she moved in silence, her motives her own. Chelsea stood in the living room, dressed in a simple long skirt. But her striking features and unique temperament were impossible to hide. The once fiery, dance-loving sister was now a model of calm and restraint. With her long, straight black hair and sharp, gold-rimmed glasses, she exuded an air of high-class intelligence that even a plain dress couldn't conceal. She had returned to the country for one reason, Jax. She intended to bring her brother home, but she couldn't act rashly. The public story was that Jax was a boy toy kept by the tyrannical Lily Astor. Chelsea suspected there was more to it. Was her brother being held against his will? If so, she would have to move carefully. The Astor dynasty was not a force to be challenged lightly. But if her brother was truly unhappy, she would find a way to get him out, even if it meant provoking that terrifying woman. Today's meeting would reveal everything. The parents hadn't dared to call and ask when their son would arrive. For Jax, it was the nervousness of homecoming. For his parents, it was the anxious excitement of a long-awaited reunion. When Jax and Lily pushed open the courtyard gate, the table in the main hall was already laden with breakfast. The fragrant smell of dumplings filled the air. "Mom, Dad, I'm home, and I brought my wife to see you." At the sight of Jax leading the magnificent Lily Astor through their gate, the Jiangs were stunned. Even though Chelsea had shown them pictures the night before, seeing her in person was breathtaking. There Jax. What great fortune had he stumbled into to marry such a beautiful and capable woman? "Mrs. Jiang hurried forward. "Jax, Ms. Astor, please come in, come in." For all her longing to see her son, her attention was now completely fixated on Lily. "Oh my goodness, look at me, Mrs. Jiang fussed. "Jax, Mom did her homework. Ms. Astor doesn't like scallions, so I made a special dipping sauce for her without any. I hope she likes it." Chelsea had coached her last night, and since her own daughter respectfully called the new bride Ms. Astor, Mrs. Jiang followed suit. The more she looked at this young woman, the more she liked her. For her to be their daughter-in-law, it was a blessing on their whole family. If their Jax dared to treat her poorly, she'd be the first to set him straight. "Oh, so that's how it is," Jax teased, a wide grin spreading across his face. "Last night, all you could talk about was how much you missed your son, but the second your daughter-in-law arrives, you've already picked a favorite." Returning to the Jiang's home, even after 4 years, felt as natural and easy as if no time had passed at all. He turned to the woman standing by the door. "Second sister." Chelsea pushed her glasses up her nose, trying to conceal the tremor in her hands. Her little brother was all grown up. He was married. He was bringing honor to their family. "You brat, what are you talking about?" Mrs. Jiang scolded him, though her tone was light and affectionate. "She's your wife. You're supposed to cherish her and spoil her. No getting jealous." "Mom." Mrs. Jiang. "Please call me Lily," Lily said. The name felt foreign on her tongue. It had been so long since she had used it for anyone. But the single word had a tremendous impact on Mrs. Jiang. "Oh, I couldn't possibly," she stammered. "Chelsea told me. You're the head of the Astor dynasty. A country woman like me isn't worthy." To hear Lily call her mom was a shock, not just to Mrs. Jiang, but to Jax as well. The difference in their statuses was immense. Lily was used to being high above everyone. She even referred to her own mother as mother. Yet she was willing to use such an intimate term for his adoptive mother, a woman she had just met. It was staggering. "Mom, please don't say that," Lily insisted, her voice soft but firm. "Since I'm Jax's wife, it's only right that I call you Mom. Unless you don't accept me as your daughter-in-law." That settled it. Mrs. Zhang's eyes filled with tears, and her rough hands trembled as she took Lily's. "Lily, my dear, hearing you call me Mom, it makes me happier than I can say. How can I not accept you? Come, let's not just stand here. Come in and eat. I picked out the freshest pork from the market this morning, and the vegetables are from my own garden. All organic and healthy. Jax loved them when he was little. You must try some, Lily." The family sat down. Lily gracefully greeted Mr. Jiang and Chelsea. Chelsea was practically starstruck, Who could possibly comprehend this? The head of the most powerful family in the country was in their tiny house, calling her second sister in that sweet voice. Chelsea felt her life had just ascended to a new plane. Lily, Ms. Astor, please, help yourself, Mr. Jiang said, his voice thick with emotion. If he hadn't gotten sick all those years ago, their family might have always been like this, gathered happily together. It was the first time in her life Lily had eaten dumplings so full of life and love. Her food was always exquisite, but the perfectly plated dishes of her world lacked the warmth of a real family. Now, Jax was giving her that, and his family was giving it to her, too. Lily felt as if the cold, pale parts of her past were finally thawing. She liked the Jiang family. She liked this relaxed, warm atmosphere. "Oh, Lily dear, Mrs. Jiang said, pulling out a small red envelope. Knowing you were coming, your father and I prepared a little something. It's not much, but it's from our hearts. It's a gift for our new daughter-in-law, a tradition in our hometown. It's $1,001. It means you're 1 in a million. You are our Jax's 1 in a million wife." Lily knew that while the sisters were successful, the old couple was frugal and proud, refusing to take money from their children. This $1,000 was likely their hard-won savings, but it was a token of their love. She couldn't refuse it. She would just have to repay their kindness tenfold in the future. She accepted the envelope with both hands. "Thank you, Mom, Dad, and for our first meeting, I've also prepared some humble gifts," Lily said, her voice even. Nathan, who had been waiting outside, flinched. "Seriously, Ms. Astor, you're getting better at putting me on the spot. If I bring those trucks in here, this whole courtyard is going to be flattened." He stepped forward, his expression a perfect mask of professionalism. "Mr. Jiang, Mrs. Jiang, if you would be so kind as to allow me to help you move this afternoon. Ms. Astor has prepared a new villa for you next to Moonshadow Estate, so that she and Mr. Pierce may look after you at any time. And Ms. Jiang," he said, turning to Chelsea, "a portfolio of properties has been transferred to your name.